Jiangsu and I were reborn together, but he has no idea. He still thinks I'm the same love-struck fool from our past life. I gave him the best of everything, sent him to the finest university, and supported his business ventures even if it meant bankrupting my family. In the end, he bled me dry and kicked me to the curb, and then he had to parade my arch-nemesis in front of me just to say, finally, I don't have to endure the humiliation of your charity anymore, given a second chance at life. I swore I wouldn't give him a single penny ever again. When it came time to choose a candidate for one-on-one sponsorship, he stood before me, oozing arrogance and confidence, yet, I deliberately passed him over and chose the poor soul standing beside him instead. 1. I'm attending the annual charity donation on behalf of the Gu family, to show our commitment to the beneficiaries. We select one individual each year for a one-on-one sponsorship program, with our staff providing direct support. In my past life, it was among all those sponsored candidates that I first laid eyes on Jiangsu. What a shame he turned out to be such an ungrateful wretch. This time, I made a point of informing Xie Qinghan before I went. She's my arch-rival, and also Jiangsu's one true love. In my past life, Jiangsu told me more than once that Xie Qinghan had a crush on him even before I started funding him. It was my money that stood in the way of their love, this time. I'll see for myself whether Xie Qinghan ever truly looked at him before Jiangsu became my boyfriend. By the time Xie Qinghan and I arrived at the funding hall, all the relevant parties were already assembled. The hall was packed with a crowd of about 100 people. My eyes found Jiangsu immediately. I have to say, my taste in aesthetics is pretty spot on. He was over 6 feet tall, with a slender build and fair, almost pale, skin among the crowd of plain-dressed, financially struggling students. Jiangsu stood out like a graceful crane. Sensing my gaze, Jiangsu straightened his posture and lifted his chin even higher. I knew he had been reborn, just like me. Mr. Jiang, once worth nearly 10 billion, has now returned to being a destitute student. I wonder if he's grown accustomed to it. Faced with the humiliation I, his most hated person, am about to inflict upon him, I can't help but wonder how he'll react. I walked in with great enthusiasm. The school representatives were very warm towards me, repeatedly thanking our GU group for giving underprivileged students the opportunity to study in peace. See, even bystanders understand gratitude. Yet, simply because of my affection, Jiangsu viewed all my efforts as an insult. This time, I've decided to take back my affection. I hope he'll be pleased. I humbly said it was the least I could do, part of our corporate social responsibility. Immediately after, we moved on to the next item on the agenda. The school administration conducted an initial screening based on criteria like grades and awards, and recommended 10 candidates. I needed to select one individual from among them for a one-on-one sponsorship. I sat at the conference table as the organizer had the candidates line up and approach me one by one, introducing themselves in turn. They were all exceptional, but limited by their material circumstances. They struggled to reach further. The very purpose of our sponsorship was to provide them a boat, to carry them across the first major river blocking their path. The person being introduced looked at me with gratitude and eagerness in their eyes. Everyone knows that a one-on-one sponsored student is bound to receive more resources and have the opportunity to build a brighter future. Soon, it was Jiangsu's turn to be introduced. He truly is outstanding, consistently ranking in the top 10 academically and having won various provincial and national awards. The supervisor thought highly of him and asked him to say a few words separately, hoping to make a stronger impression on me. But Jiangsu was unappreciative, offering only a cold hello. The supervisor's face darkened. Jiangsu couldn't have cared less. He looked at me with an air of haughty disdain. In my past life, right after hearing Jiangsu's introduction, I skipped over the other candidates and designated him as my one-on-one beneficiary. He must have thought it would be the same this time. Unfortunately, I turned to the person in charge and said, "No need to force it, let's meet the next candidate." Jiangsu was taken aback for a moment and didn't leave immediately. The person in charge urged him at once, "Mr. Jiang, please don't waste any more time." Jiangsu shot me a cold glance before turning and walking away. "You see, if I hadn't chosen you, you wouldn't even be worthy of standing before me." I couldn't even be bothered to look his way, and moved on to the next candidate's profile. After hearing everyone out, I chose Shen Huai. He hadn't won any awards, but his grades were consistently top of the class, and he was the only one with an injury on his face. They say it was his alcoholic father who did it. He didn't seem to hold out much hope until I announced he was the one. Only then did he fix his dull, Lifeless eyes on me and utter a quiet thank you. Jiangsu, unconvinced, sneered, just a bookworm who does nothing but study. Shenhui pressed his lips tightly together and said nothing, but I had no intention of indulging him any longer. Candidate, are you verbally bullying your classmate? I said coldly. Jiangsu first looked at me with great surprise, then revealed a subtle expression that seemed to say, so that's it, you're just trying to get my attention on purpose. I felt so sick I almost threw up. Jiangsu, however, remained even more composed and aloof. I was just telling the truth. So, you don't think what you did was wrong? I couldn't be bothered to engage with him and turned directly to the school officials. Is this the candidate you've selected? I have serious doubts about the character of the proposed recipient for this funding. What I wish to fund is a future leader who will pay this kindness forward. This student treats his own peers with such arrogance and contempt, freely mocking them. I seriously doubt he would ever lift a finger to help those less fortunate if he ever gained any real power. I deliberately framed his actions in the worst possible light, attaching a heavy moral judgment to them. Given a second chance, I wouldn't waste an ounce of goodwill on such an ungrateful wretch. Sure enough, my words were taken very seriously by the school authorities. The person in charge immediately stepped in, demanding that Jiangsu apologize to Shenhui at once, or else his funding eligibility would be revoked. Jiangsu glared at me furiously. I didn't even give him a glance. Wasn't it you who said the money I spent on you was nothing but an insult? I'm curious to see if the esteemed President Jiang would stoop so low, groveling and humiliating himself before me for that paltry sum of funding. I will not apologize. Jiangsu stood his ground. Don't think you can buy my submission with money. One day, Jiangsu, will make you all understand the true meaning of don't bully the young and poor, Jiangsu declared with righteous indignation. Everyone was speechless. So, not giving him funding counts as bullying him. What nerve! A single, sharp clap broke the heavy silence. It was Xie Qinghan. She walked over to me, still applauding, a classmate with such integrity, Nuanyuan. You mustn't bully them, Xie Qinghan, with her fake, sweet act, spoke up for Jiangsu, immediately trying to pin the blame on me for bullying a student from a poor background. Jiangsu's eyes lit up even more when he saw her. In his mind, he was probably picturing some touching drama where this delicate, secretly in love flower bravely stood up for him under immense pressure. It was a shame, but I could read the gloating smirk on Xie Qinghan's lips from a mile away. She was just trying to use Jiangsu to get under my skin. I wasn't going to be that naive again, letting her play the good guy with just a few words. But he was the one who refused to apologize first. I deliberately shot Jiangsu a look of utter contempt. True to form, he glared at me with his chin held high. I did nothing wrong. I feigned a sigh of helplessness. The GU group will absolutely not sponsor a candidate who shows no understanding of solidarity with their fellow students. However, I shifted the topic. Since you think so highly of this student, Xie Qinghan, why doesn't your Xie family sponsor him? As soon as the words were spoken, Jiangsu's eyes lit up, looking at Xie Qinghan with eager anticipation. Xie Qinghan stammered, her face clouded with reluctance. In the end, she brushed it off with a vague, I'll discuss it with my family when I get home. She was just an overlooked daughter from a minor branch of the Xie family, as if that would lead to any real discussion. But seeing Jiangsu's smug expression, as if to say he still had Xie Qinghan's backing even without me, I quietly chose to sit back and watch. I was quite curious to see just how far Jiangsu would get this time without the financial support of my family. The Gus, too, Shenhui and I were admitted to Jingdai University, the nation's top institution. Jiangsu went to the normal university next to ours. His grades were originally good enough for Peking University. But the normal university offered subsidies, with cheap room and board, and even promised him a monthly stipend. Shenhui and I ran into Jiangsu head-on. His gaze swept over Shenhui with a dismissive once-over, a sneer curling his lips. Pretty boy. This had happened in my past life, too. Back then, I had a crush on him and would always find some excuse to be near him. Gradually, rumors started to spread that he had latched onto the young mess of the Gu family, securing himself a worry-free future. One time, I went with him to the cafeteria to get food, and someone said gold digger right to his face. Jiangsu's face instantly darkened. The person who said it walked away, looking smug. Jiangsu then turned around, flipped over my tray, and yelled at me to stay away from him from now on. The greasy food splattered all over me, and all the other students in the cafeteria were staring. I can still remember that feeling of shame so intense I wished I could just disappear. I really regret not slapping him right across the face in that moment. What a piece of work. When others criticized him, he flew into a rage out of sheer embarrassment. he became someone else, then mercilessly mocked those now standing where he once stood. I was just about to tear into him. Shenhui took a step forward. His gaze fixed directly on Jiangsu's eyes. "You're jealous of me," a flat, matter-of-fact tone. Carrying the calmness of one who sees through everything, Jiangsu took a step back, struggling to maintain his composure. "What on earth would I have to be jealous of you for?" Shenhui took another step forward. "You're jealous that I got into Kyoto University, and you didn't. You're jealous that Gu chose me, not you. You're jealous that it's me standing by Gu's side, not you." Shenhui's rapid-fire triple whammy almost made me want to applaud him. Jiangsu was clearly outmatched, after all. He couldn't in good conscience claim he chose normal university over Peking University because he looked down on the latter. In the end, he could only mutter, "I can't be bothered to argue with you," and beat a hasty retreat. Only then did Shenhui rein in his sharp, combative edge and obediently step back to my side. "Aren't you angry?" I asked. "I know that's not the case," Shenhui replied. "Good. At least this time we've picked someone with a sound mind. Unlike the last one who turned into an ungrateful wretch at the first hint of gossip." 3. I thought that after this, given Mr. Zhang's immense pride, he'd leave me alone for a good long while. I never expected him to be so adaptable. I was reading in the library when he found me. "Gunwan, I'm giving you a chance to invest in my new energy company. If you put up 50 million, I'll give you 0.1% of the company's original shares." Jiangsu stood before my desk, leaning on it with both hands. Looking down at me from above, his eyes held a mix of 3 parts mockery, 3 parts aloofness, 3 parts indifference, and 1 part condescension. It was like the aura of a domineering CEO shooting straight up to the heavens. But who in the world tries to secure investment with such an over-the-top, arrogant, and flashy attitude? I kicked the leg of the table, shoved the stool aside, and stood up. "You're too close." Jiangsu stumbled, his wrist twisting, before steadying himself. "Good." The domineering aura was still palpable, but at least it wasn't as suffocatingly overwhelming as before. The other students who were reading were interrupted, and I was met with disapproving glares. I offered a sincere apology. "I'm sorry, this guy from another school was harassing me, and I just lost my cool." "Who are you saying is harassing you?" Jiangsu raised his voice. Several tall, burly students who had been reading immediately stood up. Jiangsu instantly deflated. "It's a misunderstanding." "Just a misunderstanding." I assured them it was fine, and only then did those guys sit back down. Jiangsu then lowered his voice and spoke to me through gritted teeth, his tone threatening. "Gunwan, don't you dare go too far." I shrugged, making it clear his threat was pointless. Jiangsu was furious, but he still had to force himself to negotiate patiently with me. "Gunuanyuan, think carefully. If you don't invest in my company, don't blame me for not giving you a chance when your family goes bankrupt." Jiangsu looked down on me from his lofty perch, like a supreme creator gazing upon a doll in his cabinet. I suddenly understood exactly what he meant. That's right. In my past life, to support his startup, I forced my family's hand by threatening suicide, making them invest all our available cash flow into his venture. Then, due to a broken capital chain, my family was nearly driven to bankruptcy. It was only because his core technology achieved a breakthrough during that period that we secured new funding, allowing the Gu family business to survive the crisis. No wonder he's always so high and mighty around me. So, all this time, he's been acting as if he's our family's savior. But if we hadn't given him that huge sum of cash, how could the Gu family's capital chain have possibly broken? People like him, even if they got a second chance, would only remember the outcomes that worked in their favor. The process, or how it happened, is completely irrelevant. Now that I understand how his mind works, I have even less reason to go easy on him. "You want to secure investment. Do you even have the proper company credentials? Do you have a team? Do you have a business plan? Do you have a return on investment statement?" Jiangsu couldn't answer a single one of the barrage of questions. I looked at him with contempt. "You come to me for investment with nothing to offer. On what grounds?" "Your pretty face." I was clearly trying to be sarcastic with him, but he must have taken it the wrong way, looking at me with a face full of shame and indignation. "Gunwan, don't think you can do whatever you want just because you have a few lousy bucks. I will absolutely never yield to you." "Fine, don't invest then. See if I care. I'll be waiting to see you regret this." Then he scurried out of the library. It had a strange, almost comical sense of indignity to it. I swear to God, I just genuinely didn't want to spend money on him. Jiangsu still managed to secure the investment. Word has it that Xie Qinghan helped him secure the funds. 5 million in exchange for 51% of the original shares in his newly established company. Jiangsu instantly became the talk of the campus. He was enrolled in the top teacher training program at the normal university, but the coursework was utterly useless for his entrepreneurial ambitions. He never bothered attending class. When a teacher criticized him for neglecting his studies, he shot back without hesitation, asking how many years of the teacher's salary it would take to match the 5 million yuan in funding he had secured. After that, nobody dared to question him again. I'm aware of Jiangsu's startup project. He's a smart guy. In his previous life, he was already in the new energy vehicle industry, primarily focused on battery range issues. I had a crush on him back then, so of course I thought he was brimming with talent. I used my family's connections to get him into Jing University's top-rated new energy science and engineering program. He devoted himself wholeheartedly to his studies for 4 years at university, and then, upon entering graduate school, co-founded a company with his advisor. But now, he's just a newly enrolled freshman. Even if he possesses memories from a past life, can CEO Jiang, who has been away from the technical front lines for years after serving as president for so long, really succeed in starting a business based solely on his own R&D? I'll be watching. 4. Jiangsu assembled his founding team. He tracked down everyone who had started a business with him in his past life. Unfortunately, only a few people in a similar situation to his own bought into his pitch and joined him. As for his mentor from his past life, I heard he was rejected without even getting a meeting. Seriously, that person is a top-tier expert in the field. Why would they bother with a poor student from an unrelated university? I, however, was different. Leveraging my status as an alumnus and bringing an initial investment of 30 million, I happily secured a collaboration with Professor Zhang. They even managed to squeeze Shenhui in there. It's not like it's outside his field of study anyway. Getting into Professor Zhang's team early and securing a direct path to a Ph.D., what a sweet deal. Not long after Shenhui joined, he started sharing the senior students' gripes about Jiangsu with me. For instance, Jiangsu issued an order. I want all our competitors' information in 3 minutes. His senior brother huffed and puffed as he opened the data analytics website, clacked away at the keyboard, only to reach the step where a paid membership was required to continue the search. Then swiveled the computer screen to face Jiangsu. The domineering aura around Jiangsu, which had seemed taller than an 18-story building, instantly deflated the moment he saw the membership fee. It was a whopping 300,000. For Jiangsu, who had the Gu family's backing in his past life, this was just a few lines of free background information, but this time, he would have to learn firsthand just how expensive fresh, high-quality data could be. A premium membership was, of course, out of the question. An hour later, Jiangsu tossed them a list of several companies and told them to investigate the new product situation. But no matter how much I dug, there was very little information to be found. One of them hadn't even been properly established. When my senior went to report back, Jiangsu chewed him out for a solid half hour. He said those companies were industry leaders, so how could there possibly be so little information on them? The pay is lousy and the workload is insane. My senior couldn't take it anymore. He had a huge blowout with Jiangsu and just quit on the spot. After he got back, he vented to Shenhui and the others about Jiangsu, saying he had all the arrogance of a domineering CEO but none of the actual power or status. Personally, I think that sums it up perfectly. Jiangsu has always been incredibly arrogant. His smooth sailing in his past life. That was all because I propped him up with the Gu family's resources. Need data. The Gu Group's strategy department held annual subscriptions to all the major professional databases. Need a proposal. A dozen managers under him, each a specialist in their own area, would compile their sections and submit them, only for Jiangsu to present the final work as his own. To achieve a technological breakthrough, dozens of key technical staff in the lab worked around the clock, securing patent results that were ultimately credited to Jiangsu. It was these individuals who gradually bestowed the spotlight upon Jiangsu. They were the ones who made him a tech prodigy and a rising business star. Yet, he always believed it was his own light shining, illuminating others. I was blind back then, truly believing he was a hidden gem. 5. Jiangsu's startup team didn't last long. Just as they were starting to see some results, someone left, taking the core technology with them. Of course, Jiangsu was talking about theft, but in reality, the other person applied for the patent, and Jiangsu put his own name on the drug. That person took the technology to a company owned by a rich second-generation heir, earning 10 times what they made under Jiangsu. Fuming with rage, Jiangsu stormed into their company to make a scene, ended up in a fight with the rich heir, and they both landed in the hospital. I got the news and immediately called Xie Qinghan so we could rush to the hospital together. In my past life, that rich kid had no intention of letting Jiangsu off the hook easily. It was only at a great personal cost that I managed to protect him. This time, well, it's Xie Qinghan's show to run. In the hospital room, Jiangsu lay alone on the bed, his leg in a cast, suspended in the air. Meanwhile, the rich kid sat in a wheelchair, his head wrapped in several layers of gauze, with a few burly men standing imposingly behind him. Jiangsu's face went pale with fear. It was genuinely terrifying. Back in my previous life, when I was the one holding them off outside the ward to negotiate, I was pretty scared too, but this time was much better. This time, I'm here to watch the show. Seeing Xie Qinghan and me, Jiangsu visibly relaxed. Especially when he saw me, a smug, I knew she couldn't get over me look even crossed his face. There was even a hint of resentment, as if to say, what took you so long? It made me so angry I wanted to rush over and punch him. The rich kid noticed him looking and turned to ask me directly, "Are you his girl?" I immediately started waving my hands and backing away. I was just passing by. Jiangsu glared at me angrily, but upon seeing Xie Qinghan beside me, a flicker of understanding crossed his expression. He probably assumed I was jealous. I quickly took a few more steps back, not wanting to catch his stupidity. The rich kid predictably turned his attention to Xie Qinghan. Xie Qinghan took a step forward. Jiangsu's gaze softened instantly, becoming tender and radiant as he looked at her. "Don't get the wrong idea, he's just a classmate. I think there's been a misunderstanding between you two. Just talk it out and clear the air." Xie Qinghan turned to face the rich kid, tucking her hair behind her ear and revealing her delicate jawline. "A misunderstanding? I'm not mistaken about anything. That bastard cracked my head open. I'm here to get my money." The trust fund kid gave Xie Qinghan a once-over with ill intent. Xie Qinghan lowered her head bashfully. The rich second-generation heir scoffed coldly. "What? Are you going to pay for him?" Xie Qinghan paused, still maintaining that delicate, fragile demeanor. "Not at all. I was hoping you might do me a favor and lower the price a bit." The rich kid stroked his chin. "All right, I was supposed to close a deal today worth 100 million. He smashed my head in and ruined my deal. He should be paying for all of it, but for your sake, I'll give him a 10% discount. Just have him pay me 90 million. Pretty generous of me, right?" The rich kid was making an outrageous demand. Xie Qinghan's expression changed instantly, all traces of shyness vanishing from her face. "I'm not familiar with this classmate. You should discuss any matters directly with him." With that, she walked briskly out of the ward without so much as a glance at Jiangsu. The light in Jiangsu's eyes visibly died out. With no one stepping in, the rich kid continued to glare menacingly at Jiangsu. "If the compensation isn't enough to satisfy me, I'll have you thrown in jail." It was the same in my past life, although both were injured. Jiangsu was the one who threw the first punch. If the other party refuses to settle, he will undoubtedly face criminal charges. Jiangsu was well aware of this. In my past life, I secretly traded the Gu family's most profitable business line with that rich heir. Not only did I protect Jiangsu, but I also managed to retrieve the core technology that had been taken from him. This time, he had the nerve to storm into their company all by himself, with no money or influence to back him up. He probably thought in the back of his mind that I'd be there to bail him out. Sure enough, Jiangsu looked at me. "Gunwan, as long as you help me settle this matter, I'll be your boyfriend." After saying this, he shut his eyes tightly and turned his head away. It was as if he had suffered the gravest humiliation. In my past life, I held back for the sake of his injuries and feared adding to his burden, so I never told him the true price I paid. But this time, I want him to see with his own eyes exactly what he has lost. I deliberately feigned a love-struck look, gazing urgently at the rich second-generation heir and asking in a tone dripping with melodrama, "Tell me, what do you want in order to let him go?" As it turned out, someone on the rich heir's side recognized me, and the compensation he demanded didn't decrease but actually increased. "Oh my, it's the young lady of the Gu family. It's my fault for failing to recognize your eminence. We're all on the same side here. Let's not talk about money. It's so vulgar. If you want me to spare your pretty boy, it's simple. Hand over the Gu family's retail channels in exchange." The rich kid looked at me with a beaming smile. Jiangsu opened his eyes and turned his head abruptly. In his past life, he had taken over the Gu family business, so he knew full well what their retail channels represented. Well, I pretended to hesitate. Jiangsu's expression visibly softened with emotion. He must have remembered why. In their past life, the Gu family's retail channels were provided to others free of charge. It was all for him. Under Jiangsu's deeply moved gaze, I flashed a mischievous grin. If he really were my kept man, I wouldn't mind covering the cost. But some people don't know their place and let others taint them. I don't have a habit of collecting trash. I shot Jiangsu a look of utter disgust, rolling my eyes dramatically before storming out of the hospital room with an air of defiance. TCH, that felt incredibly satisfying. 6. Jiangsu was not sent away. What the rich second-generation heir wanted was never really the money. What he was after was the project in Jiangsu's hands. Jiangsu was forced to hand over his entire startup team to the rich kid. He even signed what felt like an indenture himself, becoming an employee under the rich kid. Rumor has it that until he graduates, it only counts as an internship, with a monthly stipend of 1,000 yuan. When Xie Qinghan found out, she immediately went to confront Jiangsu. The 5 million investment Xie Qinghan secured for him came from one of her wealthy sugar daddies. Not only has there been zero return on investment, but the entire principal has been completely wiped out. The sugar daddy suspected she was in cahoots with the pretty boy to scam him out of the money and dumped her in a fit of rage. Furious and unable to swallow the insult, Xie Qinghan naturally went to find Jiangsu. Rumor has it they went back and forth for several rounds, and in the end, Jiangsu caved, signing a 5 million yuan IOU to her. With his current subsidy of a measly 1,000 yuan a pop, he probably couldn't pay it back even in his next lifetime. I laughed to myself at how foolish Xie Qinghan was, but my amusement was short-lived. That shameless Jiangsu actually had the nerve to set his sights on me next. Early in the morning, I left the dorm to head to class. As soon as I got downstairs, I saw Jiangsu waiting at the entrance. He was carrying a small, transparent plastic bag, inside of which were 2 large steamed buns he'd bought from the cafeteria. Nuan. He saw me and came jogging over with long strides. Here, your favorite steamed buns. He handed me a steamed bun and tossed his head, thinking he looked cool. I was so disgusted I nearly threw up my dinner from the night before. Jiangsu wasn't stupid. He could clearly see my disdain. He furrowed his thick, dark brows, his face a picture of impatience. Don't like it, but before, you used to. He stopped mid-sentence. Seeing how terrified he was of letting something slip, I sneered inwardly. Back then, you bet, like, a lifetime ago. That was the time he dumped his whole tray on me in the cafeteria. I was mortified and forced myself not to go see him for a whole week. I heard he had a pretty rough week himself, getting picked on a lot. He finally couldn't take it anymore and started bringing me breakfast. 2 cold, hard steamed buns. Looking back, I suspect they were leftovers from his own meal the day before, but back then, I was so love-struck. All I could think was, Jiangsu actually bought me breakfast. That breakfast was bought for me, personally and specially, by Jiangsu. I forced myself to choke down both steamed buns. Even though my stomach ached for 3 days afterwards, I still happily chased after Jiangsu. I really wish I could go back in time and give my past self a good slap. I don't even like steamed buns. She doesn't like steamed buns. When I turned my head, Shenhui had somehow walked up right behind me. He was holding a pink thermal lunchbox in both hands, with a glass bottle of fresh milk resting on top of it. I told you, you don't have to buy me breakfast every day. I feel really bad about this. Skipping breakfast isn't good for your stomach. Shenhui handed me the milk. He happened to see me when I had a stomachache, and I offhandedly mentioned it might be because I hadn't eaten breakfast. From that day on, without fail, he prepared breakfast for me every single day, always coming up with something new. I took the milk from him. It was the perfect temperature and tasted surprisingly good. Seeing that no one paid him any attention, Jiangsu snorted coldly and turned to leave. As he passed by the trash can, he deliberately slammed it down hard. The steamed bun bounced off the trash can with a thud and fell back to the ground. Jiangsu didn't even look back. How rude. I pursed my lips. It really is a shame to waste food. Shenhui handed me the lunchbox, walked over, picked up the steamed bun, removed the plastic bag, and placed it in the spot where students often fed the stray cats. In that moment, he seemed to glow. 7. Jiangsu didn't give up. He always had a way of showing up beside me out of nowhere, like a persistent fly that just won't go away. In class, he'd save a seat for me ahead of time and wave at me from across the room. I complained directly to the teacher, saying someone was disrupting my studies. When I went to the cafeteria, he was in the long line and insisted I cut in front of him. I turned and headed for the stir-fry canteen on the 3rd floor. When I went home for the weekend, he was waiting downstairs, saying he wanted to take a walk with me. I handed my bag to my assistant and got into the waiting luxury car. I was utterly fed up. After Shenhui found out, he made more time to spend with me. He was already swamped with his own coursework, and on top of that, he was part of a professor's research project, leaving him with very little time to rest, yet. Whenever he was with me, he was never in a hurry. In the evenings, after he finished studying, we would feed the stray cats together downstairs at the dormitory. The kittens were wary, yet always eager to eat. I broke the cod sausage into small pieces in my palm, and the kittens came over as soon as they caught the scent. Their damp, soft little tongues licked my palm, sending a tingling sensation that was utterly heart-melting. I can't believe I'm actually jealous of a cat. Shenhui spoke up suddenly, his voice so low it was almost inaudible. I turned my head and saw his eyes, bright and glistening. Only then did I realize how close we were standing, arm against arm. Through the thin fabric of our sleeves, I could almost feel the warmth of his skin. A gentle breeze drifted by, carrying the fresh, clean scent of grass and leaves. It wasn't the trees, it was Shenhui. I tilted my head back slightly, feeling a little intoxicated. What the hell are you doing? A furious shout shattered the moment. Jiangsu stood behind us, his face a mask of fury. The kittens, startled, scattered in all directions. Jiangsu's gaze was locked on me, his expression suggesting he wanted to tear me apart any second. Shenhui stood up, placing himself between us. I tossed the last bit of fish sausage in my hand, stood up, dusted off my palms, and stepped out from behind Shenhui. Who do you think you are? To question me. I stared into Jiangsu's eyes, my face expressionless. I am, Jiangsu's voice was hoarse, his throat as if locked tight. His expression shifted from anger to confusion, from confusion to regret, and finally, a trace of pain flickered across his face. You are mine. He gazed at me with an unyielding intensity, as if I were the most precious treasure in the world. It's a pity, but I don't believe it's true. Even if it were true, it's far too late now. I reined in my emotions and turned to face Shenhui. You should head back early. Shenhui nodded. I'll watch you go up first. Alright. I turned and went upstairs. Jiangsu kept calling after me. I didn't stop or look back. Jiangsu is nothing but trouble. In my past life, I stepped right into that trap. Not only did I get myself covered in filth, but I also dragged myself and my family to ruin. This time, all I have to do is simply walk around him. 8. Jiangsu stopped pestering me. Shenhui's visits to me remained just as frequent. Having breakfast together in the morning and taking an evening walk to feed the cats became almost a daily routine. Then one day, Shenhui was absent from morning till night. A sense of unease settled in, so I asked his senior about it. My senior lab mate also said he hadn't seen him in the lab, and couldn't reach him to get the materials. I used my family's connections to look into it and found out he left the campus late last night, and then just dropped off the radar. Digging deeper, we found the last place he was seen was a dirty, rundown alley. That whole area was Shenhui's home. I remembered his alcoholic father, and the bruises he wore on his face the first time I saw him. I immediately gathered some people and rushed over. It was a tiny, dilapidated shack, its walls stained black. A hulking man reeking of liquor leaned against the wall, a bottle in his hand. When someone approached, he merely raised a hand to shield his eyes from the sun and went right back to guzzling his drink. Where's Shenhui? I asked. The big man ignored me. The man I brought with me had to shake him a few times before he finally let out a drunken belch and slurred. He was taken away, you know. That little brat thinks I can't find him just because he doesn't come home. It's all because someone came looking for him, practically begging to have him pay off my debts. The drunkard swayed, clutching his bottle. Something flashed through my mind, but it was gone before I could grasp it. In the end, someone had to step up and slap him twice before he covered his head, begged for mercy, and gave up the name of his creditor, Brother Biao. I gathered my men and rushed over without a moment's delay. Seeing how many men I had, Brother Biao only agreed to let me bring one person inside to talk with him. I agreed without a moment's hesitation. Shenhui was locked in an empty room, with only a table and a stool at its center. Shenhui was forced onto the stool, his head pressed down against the table, facing an IOU. Blood was smeared across his face and body, yet he clenched his jaw and remained silent. Kid's got some backbone. With a wave of Biao Ji's hand, his underling released Shenhui. It was only then that Shenhui noticed me, his eyes instantly blazing with fury. What are you doing here? Shenhui tried to get up and come over, but someone shoved him back down hard. Don't be in such a hurry, kid. I see your little sweetheart here is doing pretty well for herself. Maybe she can help you pay off your old man's gambling debt. Wouldn't it be nice for the two of you to just walk out of here, safe and sound? Brother Biao walked over, picked up the IOU, and spread it open in front of me. Look at your outfit, sweetheart. A couple million must be nothing to you. why don't you help the kid settle this? I'll see you both out with the utmost respect. How about that? I glanced at the figure on the IOU. Over 2 million, I'll pay it. I agreed without a moment's hesitation. Shenhuai's eyes dimmed for an instant before he began to struggle violently. Bring the IOU here. I'll sign it. I'll sign it. Leave her alone. Shenhuai's voice trembled with emotion. My heart ached for him, and I just wanted to pay and get him out of there. Then, one of Biaoji's men leaned in and whispered something in his ear, and Biaoji's expression instantly changed. Ah, a young lady from the Gu family. My apologies for the disrespect. A mere million or so. If word got out, people would say Brother Biao here doesn't think much of you. With a wave of his hand, Brother Biao summoned someone to hand over a new IOU. The amount was 100 million, with a daily interest rate of 1%. Brother Biao pointed to the signature line. Sign right here, Miss Gu, and we can work everything out. This was getting a bit too greedy. I pressed my lips together and said nothing. Biao's men began to slowly close in. The bodyguards I brought were on high alert, as the two sides were locked in a standoff. Someone smashed the door open. It's the police. I had already arranged for the police to be called before I even walked in. The cops' response time certainly didn't disappoint. Biao and his crew were clearly rattled. Someone, in a panic, pulled a gun on me. The moment the gunshot rang out, my mind went completely blank. It wasn't until warm blood began to drip onto my hand that I realized I was being held tightly in a warm embrace. It was Shenhuai. 9. Brother Biao was arrested. Shenhuai was hospitalized. The investigation revealed that Jiangsu was the one who called Shenhuai out in the middle of the night. Unfortunately, he insisted he was just passing on a message from Shenhuai's father. No charges could be brought. Jiangsu gave his statement and left the police station, but both Shenhuai and I knew he was involved. While Shenhuai was in the hospital, Jiangsu had the nerve to visit. Shenhuai was lying half-propped on the bed, a wound in his shoulder. I was beside him, feeding him bird's nest soup. He was a little embarrassed at first. The moment Jiangsu walked in, he took the spoon I offered into his mouth, drank slowly, and then looked at me as if asking for more. I couldn't help but laugh. Jiangsu stared at us with a dark, contorted expression. Gunwan, what's so great about him? Is the son of a gambler really worth all this to you? Or do you just get a kick out of toying with poor kids like this? Jiangsu was starting to lose his mind. He didn't even bother hiding the fact he was a reincarnator anymore. But his accusations just struck me as ridiculous. Playing around. In my past life, I was willing to stake the entire Gu family fortune for him, and he calls that playing around. But I can't even be bothered to argue with him anymore. Jiangsu, you're not welcome here. Please leave. I didn't mince words. I told him to get out. But unlike before, Jiangsu didn't just turn and walk away. He walked over to me, crouched down, and tried to take my hand. I dodged it. He looked a bit angry, but was trying hard to keep his temper in check. Nuanyuan, stop messing with me. Let's go back to how things were before. Stay by my side, and I promise I'll never treat you poorly again. Okay. A hint of pleading showed in his expression. I gave him a deliberate smile. Then, just as a glimmer of hope began to shine in his eyes, I whispered softly to him, I don't want it. It was just like in my past life. When I begged and pleaded with him, desperate for him to spare the Gu family and my parents, with Xie Qinghan on his arm, he stepped on my hand and said, I don't want it. 10. Shenhuai recovered remarkably fast. The very day he was cleared to leave the hospital, he reported back to the lab. My parents were so shaken by what happened with Biaoge that I had to run back and forth between school and home. Life was quiet. Until one day, I noticed my father looking rather downcast. I only found out after asking that something had gone wrong at the family business. A long-standing client was suddenly poached by a competitor. Every time we submitted a bid, our bottom line was always figured out by the competition. Even our once proud retail channels are constantly being meddled with. And the ones doing the meddling are none other than that rich kid who got into a fight with Jiangsu. They're poking and prodding here and there. It's not enough to cripple the Gu family business, but it's a constant nuisance. My father can't be bothered dealing with these petty issues, so he's dumped them all on me. I know perfectly well that all of this is Jiangsu's doing, leveraging his memories from a past life, but it's incredibly difficult to find concrete evidence for something like this. That leaves us with no choice but to start with the new energy project. Ever since Jiangsu's team was taken over by the Trust Fund Kids group, things haven't been going smoothly at all. After hitting one wall after another, he remembered Professor Zhang, who collaborates with me. He had been reaching out to Professor Zhang on the side. Little did he know, Professor Zhang often recounted his antics to me as a joke. When that door closed with Professor Zhang, he set his sights on Shenhuai's senior colleagues. Shenhuai mentioned to me that someone seems to be interested, but hasn't made a move yet. My original plan was to have Professor Zhang transfer that senior student away from the project. For now, I've asked Shenhuai to keep an eye on that senior student, but not to tip our hand. The new energy project is making rapid progress. Professor Zhang filed for a patent with his students under the guise of collaborative research. The patent had just been granted when Jiangsu filed a lawsuit against Professor Zhang and our Gu Corporation. The accusation was that we had stolen their technology. The key witness was that senior fellow apprentice he had bribed. Not only that, but he also took the matter online, attempting to use public opinion to damage the Gu family's reputation. Gu Nuanyuan, if you just come back to me obediently, I'll drop the lawsuit. Before the trial, Jiangsu looked at me with absolute confidence. How ridiculous. In my past life, I gave him my all, yet he cast me aside like a worn-out shoe. In this life, I've opposed him at every turn, yet he's the one who keeps coming after me. In your dreams, I gave a cold smile and walked right past him. In the courtroom, Jiangsu was utterly overbearing. They presented a comprehensive comparison of all the data, forcefully arguing that their research and development came first. In contrast, we only put forward two pieces of evidence. The first was video footage, surveillance video showing the bribed senior student illicitly copying the lab data and then privately handing it over to Jiangsu. Another key piece of evidence is the comparison of the genuine core data. What that senior student copied and took was not the real data at all. Yet, Jiangsu, holding two completely different sets of data, accused us of plagiarism. The verdict was a foregone conclusion. Furthermore, our attorney filed a counterclaim in court. Jiangsu instructed others to steal data, constituting an act of unfair competition. Accusing us of plagiarism without cause amounts to malicious prosecution. Spreading false information online is an act of defamation that damages business reputation. Multiple charges were substantiated, and the case was officially filed in court. A verdict couldn't be delivered on the spot, but Jiangsu won't get away with this. 11. Before the verdict was announced, Jiangsu asked to see me one last time. I'm going. Shenhuai went too, and was waiting for me not far away. Jiangsu watched Shenhuai walk away, letting out a cold sneer. I can't believe you still have the nerve to like that penniless guy. I know, he can tell I've been reborn too. Ingratitude and repaying kindness with malice is a matter of character, not poverty. I couldn't be bothered to keep up the pretense any longer. So, you have been reborn after all. You and I are the same. We're cut from the same cloth. Jiangsu fixed me with an intense, burning gaze. I was genuinely curious how he could have the sheer audacity to think I'd ever take him back. Jiangsu, I rarely ever called him by his name. He looked over, his eyes full of anticipation. I gave a slight smile. I wonder if you still remember. You still have an IOU for 5 million. Jiangsu's face stiffened. I couldn't be bothered to keep up the pretense with him any longer. Jiangsu, to be honest, seeing you like this makes me quite happy. In our past life, it was me who liked you, which always made you feel superior to me. It was my affection that let you climb on my shoulders to reach a place you never belonged, yet you showed no gratitude, even complaining that this ladder of mine was dirty. If you found it so repulsive, you could have just told me. You reveled in everything I gave, all while wanting to grind me into the dirt. Even if I could do it all over again, I have nothing to apologize to you for. I merely took back what I had once given you, but just look at this. I gave a soft, knowing smile. This is where you truly belong. Jiangsu's face turned ashen as he collapsed in despair. He could no longer sustain the pride I had cultivated in him with endless affection and wealth. Shenhuai came to pick me up, without even a glance at Jiangsu. Their eyes were filled with nothing but me. I'm just a poor guy. He lowered his lashes. Looking somewhat forlorn, I was just about to comfort him. He lifted his face and looked at me with a radiant smile. But I won't always be. He waved his phone at me, showing a text message on the screen. Your new patent application has been approved. Story 2. I took meticulous care of the paralyzed Zhou Yuan for 2 years, and everyone assumed the first thing he'd do upon standing up would be to marry me. Only I asked on the night of his successful surgery, do you still want to marry me? He hesitated, and in the end, that simple answer never left his lips. I chuckled softly. I understand. I took off the ring and left without hesitation that night the place I had lived for 2 years. 1. Do you still want to marry me? Zhou Yuan was slightly stunned upon hearing these words, staring at his legs for a long time without speaking. The noise outside came through the unclosed door crack. The doctor said Brother Zhou's surgery was very successful, and he'll recover completely in less than half a month. I truly never thought Brother could recover. 2 years ago, He had almost given up on himself. Thanks to sister-in-law's unwavering support, they're definitely getting married, right? We should prepare wedding gifts early. Zhou Yuan heard these boisterous well-wishes but ultimately remained silent. The air was thick with an awkward atmosphere. In the end, it was me who stood up and massaged his knees and calves as usual, considerately offering him an out. Is this pressure okay? This finally broke the awkward atmosphere. His tense body gradually relaxed, and as I had done for the past 2 years, I softly asked, "Does it hurt anywhere?" He shook his head and answered earnestly, "No, you massage better than the nurses do." I stared blankly at my hands massaging his legs. Truth be told, I didn't know how to do it at first. It was because he couldn't stand the nurses touching his body. Every time they came, he would lose his temper and chase them away. But massage was an essential thing for his legs, so I spent 3 months learning from the massage parlor owner, starting with soaking medicinal solutions and practicing on myself. I finally cautiously began massaging his legs. The first time, I only dared to gently knead while he was asleep. He's a light sleeper and still noticed. Flying into a rage, "Get out." I didn't leave. I massaged the acupoints again according to what the massage parlor owner had shown me. His legs couldn't move, so he threw a pillow at my head. I remained unmoved, and he ended up hurling everything within reach toward me. Finally, it was a photo frame containing his university picture, one hand holding a trophy, the other clenched in a fist, full of vigor and spirit. As warm blood trickled down my temple, he looked at me, struggling to reach my side. But the limitations of his legs left him utterly helpless. Finally, he covered his face and suddenly burst into tears. "Go, just leave. Don't stay by my side. It's no use. I can't feel anything, no matter how hard I press." Too, back then, he had given up on himself, but I came to massage him every day without fail, rain or shine, until his mother discovered he had swallowed sleeping pills and rushed him to the hospital in panic. His mother couldn't handle him. So I crouched in front of him and said, "Look at me." He obediently looked at me, and I said, "Everything will be all right, trust me." At that time, even I didn't know where my confidence came from. From that day on, I moved into his house. Zhou Yuan's mother tearfully thanked me over and over, saying it was fortunate I was there. She hesitated to speak further, and I knew what she wanted to ask, so I said, "As long as Zhou Yuan doesn't drive me away, I'll stay by his side." But the truth is, even when he tried to drive me away, I didn't leave. When yet another massage proved useless, he flew into a rage. "Get out, all of you." By then he was already in a wheelchair, having smashed the entire bedroom to pieces. But the good thing was, he at least avoided hitting me and stopped throwing things at me. After he finished venting, I moved close to him and said once more, "Zhou Yuan, trust me." This phrase has been said for 2 years. Gradually, his legs could feel pressure, and then slowly perform some simple movements. Until yesterday's surgery, the doctors were amazed, saying the operation was very successful, barring any accidents. He can stand up now. 3. Zhou Yuan's mother knew the news and shoved the bank card into my hand. I stared at the bank card in a daze. These past 2 years, I wasn't doing it just for a bank card. All of Zhou Yuan's friends call me sister-in-law, but only I know the truth. I'm hardly worthy of that title. We didn't even confess our feelings, let alone establish any relationship, but fortunately, I had Zhou Yuan's promise. 1. Once my leg heals, we'll get married immediately. That was during his first treatment when the doctor tactfully expressed regret, and I was pushing him home. After entering the house, he completely broke down. The sudden fall from grace for someone who was always the golden boy would be unbearable for anyone. I held him tightly, and he bit into my shoulder. The bite was too deep and too fierce, and now my shoulder still bears the teeth marks. When he saw the blood, he snapped out of it and panically said to me, I'm sorry. After apologizing, I massaged his calf as usual, and he said these words, "No." He even asked, "Suwan, do you have a crush on me?" I didn't stay silent. Looking at him, I said, "Yes." He stared at me for a long moment before saying he'd marry me. But I didn't do all those things for an equivalent exchange. I just wanted him to feel the same way I did, praying that one day he might love me too. At that moment, I stood up as usual, poured the medicated oil into my palm to warm it, and only then touched his calf. I knew he was watching me. After a long while, his voice came from above my head, Wan, you don't need to do these things anymore." My hands paused briefly, but I stubbornly finished the massage. Tilting my head up, I asked again with desperate hope, "Zhou Yuan, do you still want to marry me?" He seemed to hesitate, words on the tip of his tongue, but ultimately remained silent. I can only laugh at my own wishful thinking. but the ring on my ring finger was placed there by his own hand. After secretly loving him for so many years, how could I not indulge in wishful thoughts? 4. I stood up and washed the medicinal oil off my hands. The ring on my ring finger is pressing painfully against my heart. He spoke outside the door. 1. You are my sister. Tears fell into the water as I quickly wiped them away. Don't say such things. Words like these are too cruel for me. As I pushed open the bathroom door and stepped out, the living room was still bustling with noise. I lowered my head to look into Zhou Yuan's eyes, struggling to remove the ring. Actually, the ring size was wrong, a size too small. I couldn't tell if he was careless or if it wasn't meant for me in the first place, but I knew that forcing it onto my finger, a size too small, made my finger ache from the tightness. Before I could still deceive myself into thinking all rings were like this. When I finally took it off, my finger felt relieved, and I actually regretted not removing it sooner. Zhou Yuan avoided eye contact as I held the ring out to him. Here, take it back. The marks on the fingers were clear, so I added, it's gotten smaller. He wanted to say something, but I waved him off, pushed him out the door. 5. As soon as we stepped out, friends in the living room practically swarmed around us. What sweet nothings are you two lovebirds whispering that even we can't hear? Don't worry, we won't tease you today, we'll save it for your wedding day. We'll leave after playing with you a little longer. Zhou Yuan's friends, just like him, are polite and know their boundaries. Considering Zhou Yuan had just undergone surgery, everyone brought juice and light food. Someone asked Zhou Yuan, Brother Zhou, when you recover, let's go skiing at Titley's together again. Zhou Yuan responded as usual, no longer showing stress reactions when skiing or basketball were mentioned. His friend turned to me and said, Sis-in-law should come too. Brother Zhou will book your ticket. You'll absolutely love it. Zhou Yuan looked up at me and threw the question back to me. Being rejected twice in a row, even someone as shameless as me has self-respect. I said, you guys go ahead, but Zhou Yuan suddenly spoke up. It doesn't matter if we all go have fun together, anyway. I treat you like a little sister. As these words fell, everyone immediately fell silent. His friend laughed and patted his head. Zhou Yuan, what kind of joke are you making? Immediately more friends jumped in to defuse the situation. His leg just healed, his head's not clear yet. Sister-in-law, don't take it to heart. This sentence was casually tossed around in playful banter, but Zhou Yuan remained silent from start to finish. 6. I recalled a long time ago when a close friend saw the ring on my ring finger and asked me, 1. Are you sure? They're not from the same world as us. If his legs heal, would he really marry you? Back then I didn't dare to voice that answer. And even now I still don't. I knew Zhou Yuan had given me the answer. No. The gathering had a harmonious atmosphere, with soft music playing as everyone reminisced about past memories. I lowered my head and searched for Titley's. Less known, it's a locally famous ski resort. I couldn't understand a word they said, and it was then I vaguely grasped my friend's remark about not being from the same world. I stood up, and Zhou Yuan's gaze immediately fell upon me. I returned to my own bedroom, though to call it mine would be a stretch, as everything in it was furnished by Zhou Yuan's mother. I made a call to the woman who had tearfully thanked me 2 years ago, rubbing my fingertips. I asked, Auntie, about that bank card of yours. She seemed eager for me to bring it up, cutting me off before I could finish. The pin is 6 zeros. Take whatever you need. Thank you for looking after Zhou Yuan these past 2 years. I let out a heavy There was nothing to pack. I threw my only few pieces of clothing into the trash. I left the house with that card. Passing through the living room, Zhou Yuan's friend asked me, Sis, it's so late. What are you doing? I didn't want to put Zhou Yuan in a difficult position, so I smiled brightly. I'm hungry. I'll go out for a bowl of wontons. They were clamoring to order takeout, but I refused. A single takeout order would cost you hundreds. It's not worth it. Zhou Yuan seemed to realize something, looking up at me without blinking. I waved at the people inside. I'm heading out now. At 1 a.m., I left this place where I had lived for 2 years with just a bank card. It wasn't a total loss. 7. I found myself a place to stay. No need to watch over Zhou Yuan constantly. No fear of his sudden mental breakdown at night. The body suddenly relaxed, not yet accustomed to the feeling. Instead of sleeping, I held a cup of water and watched the sparse stars from the balcony. In the complete silence, I began listening to my own voice. I thought I would feel sad or heartbroken, but there wasn't. I just touched the red mark left on my ring finger and started wondering when it would fade. That night, I only felt that the wind was a bit chilly, and the stars in the sky were unusually bright. Zhou Yuan called in the early hours of the next morning, but when I answered, there was silence on his end. In the end, I was the one who spoke up. is there something you need? He finally spoke tentatively. Suwon, I'd like custard buns for breakfast. After becoming paralyzed from the waist down, he refused to eat. I tried one thing after another, but he kept his mouth shut, refusing to take a single bite. Finally, my tears fell to the ground as I begged, please take just one bite, you can't go without eating. Perhaps annoyed by my crying, he finally frowned and bit into the custard bun. He doesn't like store-bought ones because I learned how to make them, but everything from yesterday remains vivid in my mind, and I still remember his silence. I said calmly, Zhou Yuan, I'm leaving. 8. The other end of the phone fell silent for a long moment, not knowing what to say. I simply hung up. The bank card held an astonishing amount of money. Counting those zeros left me in a daze. After counting several times, I still couldn't believe it. Only after carefully putting away the card did I understand my best friend's words, you're from different worlds. Indeed, my parents are just ordinary people. They knew I was taking care of my paralyzed boyfriend and still came to visit me. At that time, Zhou Yuan's mother warmly entertained them, and they were at a loss. When they returned home, they told me, sweetheart, it's a bit difficult, but they didn't stop me. Just waved their hands and said, it's fine, go ahead and try, at worst. You can always come back home. Only now, 2 years later, do I vaguely understand Zhou Yuan's mother's actions. Even Zhou Yuan was surprised by those plates of exquisite dishes, let alone two ordinary folks from the county town. Zhou Yuan's mother warmly entertained us, but it was clearly meant to show off to my parents. We're not from the same world. I simply used that card to buy a new apartment, without even reducing the balance by a single zero. After being busy with renovations and various tasks, I unexpectedly saw Zhou Yuan again at the coffee shop near the neighborhood entrance half a month later. His friends were pushing and teasing him. Zhou Yuan, if you don't win Suwon back, I'll look down on you. Just apologize to her. Who else could be your wife but her? I'll just acknowledge her. 9. Zhou Yuan hadn't been out for 2 years. His fair complexion glaringly pale under the sunlight, hearing his friends half-insistent, half-teasing banter. He curled his lips dismissively. If Suwon appears before me right now, then we'll talk. Unfortunately, I was sitting right behind them at the next table. I instinctively dodged aside upon hearing those words, but the next second my friend came out of the coffee shop and called my name excitedly. Wanwan. She ran over to share with me, there's cake you like today. Zhou Yuan and his table immediately fell silent as I watched their gazes follow my friend's movement and land on me. My friend placed the cake in front of me and asked with confusion at my sudden change of expression, what's wrong? She tensed up instinctively because of my expression. Then I realized it was just their group making a fuss. Why should I let them affect my mood? My expression changed. It's fine, sit down. You still remember I like this cake, huh? This single sentence opened the floodgates of conversation. Being too close, Zhou Yuan's table's voices inevitably carried over. It's heaven's will. Zhou Yuan, you should go apologize. Such a wonderful sister-in-law. I don't believe you'll meet a second one like her. Let me tell you, if you don't explain clearly, we can't be friends anymore. I recognized every voice. They had each come to visit Zhou Yuan when he was paralyzed in bed. Among them was a girl who had a crush on Zhou Yuan. When she went into the room to see Zhou Yuan, he deliberately spilled water on her skirt. The weather is hot, the skirt is thin, and when it gets wet, the skin becomes immediately visible. The girl stood there awkwardly, and I handed her a shawl. Zhou Yuan's expression was cold as he looked at her and sneered, you still like me even like this? The girl's eyes were red, and I gently closed the door. After coming out, she lifted her head proudly and said to me, I don't want to like Zhou Yuan anymore, he's not worth it. After saying that, she left holding up her dripping wet skirt, but turned back halfway, watching me clean up the water stains from her skirt in the living room. She awkwardly said, but you're really nice. Thank you. You shouldn't like Zhou Yuan either. He's not good enough for you. After saying that, she quickly ran away. Later we became friends and would exchange gifts during holidays. The people around Zhou Yuan aren't bad. I was lost in these thoughts while listening to my friend's words. It was when Zhou Yuan's voice sounded that I realized he was standing beside me. He called my name, Suwon. I looked up instinctively, his brows furrowed tightly, but when he saw me, he suddenly seemed unable to speak. His friends behind him started teasing, Zhou Yuan, apologize and win your girl back. Hearing this, Zhou Yuan's frown deepened. But now I don't need his apology. Relationships should be based on mutual willingness. Besides, didn't I take the bank card? I still haven't counted all the zeros in the balance. One can't have their cake and eat it too. Zhou Yuan stood dumbfounded before me as I spoke to his conflicted expression. No need. I don't need apologies. Hearing this, he breathed a sigh of relief, turned halfway, then looked back at me and asked, "When are you going back?" Perhaps I didn't explain clearly last time, so this time I made it more explicit. I'm not going back. Zhou Yuan seemed lost in thought, staring at me heavily before finally responding with a quiet He turned back to his own desk, where his familiar friends were all watching the commotion. "So, did you win her back? When are you two getting married? When will I get my wedding candies?" "I won't get married." Zhou Yuan's voice was light, carrying a hint of impatience. The entire table suddenly fell silent. Zhou Yuan repeated it again, his voice unconsciously rising. "Why would you think I'd marry her? Just because I'm grateful to her. I should marry her. I told you, I see her as a younger sister. This is the third time. People shouldn't push their luck when given face." I also stood up directly and said to his friends, "You've misunderstood about the marriage. I'm just being paid to take care of Zhou Yuan." Zhou Yuan looked up at me with a heavy gaze, and I met his eyes openly and unflinchingly. Looking at his furrowed brows, I said, "You don't have to treat me like a sister. A stranger would be fine." 10. While taking care of Zhou Yuan, sometimes I couldn't help but wonder if Will hadn't been in that car accident. Would he have fallen in love with Clark? At first I thought yes, then I thought no. I kept oscillating between yes and no, and in the end this question remained unanswered. I don't know their answers, but I know mine and Zhou Yuan's. Zhou Yuan fell in love, making a big show of it. He announced it publicly on social media, openly introducing the girl to his friends, making it impossible for me not to know. I met Zhou Yuan and his girlfriend at a party, with so many mutual friends. No one expected us to run into each other. When Zhou Yuan walked in with his girlfriend, my friend beside me squeezed my hand tightly. After all, they'd all seen how I took care of Zhou Yuan those 2 years. I gave her a reassuring smile and openly looked at the girl Zhou Yuan had brought in. Nothing special, 2 eyes and 1 mouth. Zhou Yuan also saw me and casually took a seat in the corner by the door. When sitting down, he asked the waiter for a fruit platter. When the fruit platter arrived, he placed it in front of the girl, who smiled with crescent eyes and leaned in to whisper in his ear. The girl joyfully shared with him, but he wouldn't even lower his head. His gaze lazily fixed on the fruit platter as he half-heartedly listened. Anyone could see his obvious lack of attention. If this is how he acts in a relationship, it's actually quite dull. I wasn't provoked, but my friend was. She got drunk and insisted on setting me up with someone, while I patiently explained she was wasted. As I helped her out the door, Zhou Yuan's girlfriend and I locked eyes. "Sis, I recognize you." My steps halted as she continued, "Thank you for taking care of Zhou Yuan." I nodded and tried to walk away while supporting my friend. The girl was so eager to win a round against me that she didn't notice the sudden quiet atmosphere around her, hastily standing up in front of me. But if I had stayed by Zhou Yuan's side back then, I could have done it too. The constant outbursts of temper to endure, the casually thrown water cups, and the inability to sleep deeply. She said she could do it too. I let out a light chuckle. Anyone can say things, but there's no such what if. But it's not certain either. What if Zhou Yuan's leg acts up again? She could try seeing if she can take care of him. Zhou Yuan had already turned pale, and a friend stepped in to ease the tension. I also joked to lighten the mood. If it really comes to that, might as well spend some money to hire a nurse. Just this one sentence, and Zhou Yuan still got angry. Bang, the glass hit the table heavily, and I turned my face to look. He frowned and spoke impatiently. "It's all in the past. Why bring it up? So boring." "But it's all in the past. Why can't it be mentioned?" It's him who doesn't want to be reminded. He considers it humiliating. 11. When my friend sobered up the next day and heard about it, he couldn't stop cursing. What does she mean by flaunting it right in your face? Let her flaunt if she wants to. I counted the zeros in my bank account balance and thought, I'm actually not even angry. It was at this moment I realized just how powerful money can be. But my friend thought I was just putting on a brave face and brought it up again. Zhou Yuan is already in a relationship. Do you want me to help you find a boyfriend? With your qualities, it'd be a piece of cake. Nowadays, people are used to fast-paced relationships, but I still want to slow down, meet someone, and take the time to understand love, exchanging sincerity for sincerity. I politely declined. No need. Because of my refusal. My friend firmly believed that I was still heartbroken over Zhou Yuan and waiting for him. She was scolding Zhou Yuan on the side, and I laughed along while adding a few curses of my own. As days passed slowly, I learned baking and flower arrangement. During this time, several people tried to court me, but when I suggested we take time to get to know each other, they retreated as if facing a great threat. Then, within less than half a month, I'd see news of them finding a girlfriend. My friends joke that I'm a professional matchmaker. I laugh too. but I'm genuinely in no hurry. When taking care of Zhou Yuan, my heart was completely devoted to him. Now I want to focus on myself first. I want to empty my heart before accepting someone else. I think the person I accept in the future should be as sincere as I am. I still look forward to genuine hearts meeting. 12. Zhou Yuan and I broke up. Yet we were back together in less than a week. Another grand public announcement. And friends gradually accepted the fact that Zhou Yuan and I were never meant to be. Like Clark, I learned to dive, spending every day exploring fascinating underwater worlds with my gear. Though I was away from City A for half a year, news about Zhou Yuan still found its way to my ears. He broke up again, perhaps came to his senses, and suddenly stopped. Zhou Yuan's friends jokingly hinted to me that he's now single, urging me to come back. With the new year approaching, I had no choice but to return home, but I didn't expect everyone to be waiting for me as soon as I got off the plane. Zhou Yuan's friends all came and teased me. Wanwanjia, you've gotten quite tanned. They didn't distance themselves from me just because Zhou Yuan and I didn't end up together. On the day Zhou Yuan and I had our talk, one friend even sent me a special message. Wanwanjia, even without Zhou Yuan, I'd still want to be friends with you, but I never expected that Zhou Yuan would come too. He stood far in the distance, lost in thought, but in the end, he took a step forward and said to me, "Long time no see." Half a year ago, his attitude toward me still carried a hint of resentment, yet now he greeted me like an old friend saying, "Long time no see." I politely replied, "Long time no see." He spoke carefully, "My leg." He was interrupted mid-sentence by my ringtone, and I smiled apologetically at them. Answering the call, a youthful voice chimed brightly, "Sis, where are you?" His cheerfulness was contagious. "I'll send you my location, no rush, take your time coming over." After hanging up the phone, my friends all gathered around me, deciding on a place to eat. I waited for them to finish speaking before asking, "Can we add one more person?" They were all surprised. Add who? What kind of person? The bright orange windbreaker was dazzlingly eye-catching. I told him to slow down, but he still ran all the way to my side. He directly held my hand and said clingingly, "I missed you so much." His movement was too fast for friends to react in time. I tried to take the box from his hands, but he refused. Only then did I introduce to my friend, Qingyang, my boyfriend, 13. Sometimes, fate works in strange ways. Arriving suddenly at the most unexpected moments, Qingyang confessed to me. And as usual, I told him to take it slow. Honestly, I had prepared myself for him to give up after 2 weeks, but I never expected him to persist for so long. By the time I came to my senses, traces of him were everywhere around me. I'm not young anymore, and when people around me hear me say take it slow, they think I'm stringing them along. But young people wouldn't think that way when they hear take it slow. They truly mean taking it slow, sincere and passionate. You've kept it well hidden. If it weren't for this trip back, we probably wouldn't have met. No way, you're paying for this meal. It's not that I hid well enough, but I never expected him to come back with me. I missed my flight due to traffic, and when rescheduling for the next one, he pitifully messaged, "Why aren't you here yet? I hate you." Only then did I realize he had bought the seat next to mine to surprise me, but we ended up missing each other by sheer coincidence. He had landed early and was waiting at the airport, and we had just reunited. My friends were still teasing, and I raised my hand with a smile, saying, my treat, my treat." Qingyang mimicked my gesture of raising his hand and copied my tone, saying, my treat, my treat." He has an outgoing personality and quickly became familiar with his friends. When they sat down at the restaurant, Qingyang joined them unexpectedly, and the seating turned out to be just right. Only then did someone notice Zhou Yuan hadn't arrived. They called him, and Zhou Yuan's voice sounded unclear. My legs suddenly felt bad, so I went to the hospital. How could they possibly fit in this situation? So sudden. "Are you okay? What did the doctor say?" "It's fine. The doctor just said I need some rest. You guys go ahead and eat. I'll treat you next time." Although Zhou Yuan said that, the previous incident was too serious, and his family background was a factor. Seeing their troubled expressions, I took the initiative to offer a way out. "You should go check on Zhou Yuan. This meal can happen anytime." Just as Qingyang and I were tired, we wanted to go back and rest. Qingyang wasn't angry about the sudden turn of events either. Cheerfully seeing them off, I took Qingyang home, and along the way he excitedly pointed at the flowers and plants by the roadside, asking all sorts of questions. He had endless things to say every day, even stopping to chat with dogs on the street. When I got home, no one could have imagined that the person from the hospital was actually standing at my doorstep. Qingyang's grip on my hand paused as he saw Zhou Yuan step forward and speak first. "Brother Zhou Yuan, is that you?" His voice carried a hint of laughter, appearing exceptionally amiable, even addressing him as brother. I instinctively glanced at him. Zhou Yuan smiled at him but didn't answer his question. He looked at me and called out, "Suwan, 14, his gaze fell upon me. "Long time no see," he said again. Even though Qingyang was being ignored, he didn't show any unhappiness, just obediently held my hand and stood by my side. Zhou Yuan seemed about to say something more, but I stepped forward to interrupt him and proactively introduced Qingyang. "This is my boyfriend, Qingyang." Upon hearing this, Zhou Yuan forced a smile at the corner of his mouth and after a long pause responded quietly, After speaking, he added, "There might be something wrong with my leg." Qingyang spoke up at the right moment, anxiously concerned. "If there's a problem with your leg, you should go to the hospital immediately." He patiently asked, "Do you need me to call an ambulance for you?" After taking out his phone, he explained earnestly, "After all, my girlfriend isn't a doctor." Zhou Yuan ignored him and called out to me again, "Wan Wan." Qingyang ignored him and asked me directly, "Sister, why isn't he paying attention to me? How should I know why Zhou Yuan is ignoring him?" Zhou Yuan called out to me again, "Wan Wan." Qingyang kept pestering me, bringing his face close to mine and asking, "Sister, why?" I swatted his head away. "I don't know." He leaned his face in again. I could never resist him. Subconsciously, I took out my house key to unlock the door, only realizing at the threshold that Zhou Yuan was still standing beside me. Qingyang said without hesitation, "Sis, you forgot brother Zhou Yuan is still at the door." Zhou Yuan's expression nearly faltered. Noticing my gaze upon him, he finally spoke, "Shall we talk?" Qingyang shook my hand. "Sister, what are you going to say to him?" Only then did I realize his uncharacteristically green tea attitude from the very beginning. Belatedly following his lead, I said, "I won't say anything to him." After saying that, I closed the door, and Qingyang came in and hugged me. "I'm jealous." I patted his head. "What are you jealous of?" When we first started dating, I told him everything without holding back. Knowing about my past with Zhou Yuan, what else could he be worried about? "I hate that you're so dense." I don't know how to respond. But before I could answer, he cheered up again. "What is good?" He spoke in a muffled, small voice. "Can't even see when others show kindness." But that very night, Zhou Yuan still called, "Wan Wan, did you know your boyfriend has a 4-year-long first love?" 15. Zhou Yuan was really hospitalized. The situation is unknown. His ex-girlfriends who previously said they would take care of him went to the hospital one after another. My friends even made bets to see how many days they could last at most. The result was 2 days. Most of them left the hospital within a few hours. A friend said he deserved it, repeatedly telling me not to be soft-hearted. Of course I won't be soft-hearted. Since taking that card, I've never thought of looking back. Zhou Yuan's mother suddenly sent a message one night, "Wan Wan, can you meet Zhou Yuan alone?" When she messaged me, Qingyang was right beside me. I seriously declined, "Sorry. My boyfriend might mind." She called, pleading desperately, "I beg you, I'll pay any amount you want. Zhou Yuan can't go without eating. I'm begging you, just let him eat." Why would something like this happen to Zhou Yuan? She spoke incoherently, her voice breaking down. From her fragmented words, I gathered that Zhou Yuan's hospitalization wasn't a minor issue. Aunt Zhou cried out loud, "Why should something like this happen to us? Please help me. He can't go without eating." Qingyang sat obediently aside, not wanting to put me in a difficult position, and generously said, "Meeting once is no big deal. Don't worry about me, but it doesn't matter anymore. Why insist on this one meeting? And once I meet them once, they'll use it as an excuse to make me meet countless times." I remained firm with the distraught woman. "I'm sorry, I don't owe you anything. I have my own life to live, and so does Zhou Yuan." The next day, I learned from a friend that Zhou Yuan's leg had developed issues. The small probability event the doctor mentioned had actually happened to him. After standing up, his muscles atrophied, and it was very likely he'd have to return to his previous way of life. During that time, even when I stayed by his side, he could hardly bear it, not to mention having experienced the feeling of standing up again. Now there's another problem. Being told I might be paralyzed. I didn't reply to that message. When Zhou Yuan suddenly called, I thought he was calling to ask about the massage and medicated oil, but no, he said, "Wan Wan, believe it or not, you and your little boyfriend won't last." I didn't answer, and he continued, "Want to make a bet?" He said, "Let's bet on your boyfriend's loyalty." I don't know how to bet on loyalty, but I know that the moment you think about testing it, trust immediately crumbles. I won't accompany you in such a pointless bet, but he didn't care about my refusal. He said one last thing, "Just wait and see." all men are the same. I brushed this incident aside as a mere episode. The next few days were continuously busy due to the approaching new year. Qingyang wanted to hang out with me here and asked me several times, but I never had time. He was dejected, with disappointment written all over his face. Eventually realizing I was genuinely busy, he started wandering around the city alone. His personality never lacks friends. And I'm not worried about him not being able to make any. Sure enough, in just 2 short days, he was already able to go out with great enthusiasm. In the morning, he would leave before I even got up. Sometimes I'd wake up just in time to see him. Other times I'd only find the note he left when going to the living room while still half asleep. As the notes piled up, unease slowly crept in, belatedly. What is he doing? Who is he meeting with? I remembered how he bothered me when I was on a business trip for a week, asking what I was doing. For the first time, I understood his thoughts. I'm too slow to warm up, always a step behind in sensing the other person's thoughts. I want to have a good talk with him. But before I could find time to talk with him, Zhou Yuan changed his number and sent me a photo. Qingyang was laughing happily with a girl in a coffee shop. In an instant, unease welled up in my heart. He had told me in the morning he was meeting a friend. Zhou Yuan sent a message. See, all men are the same. I don't know why he's sending these messages. He keeps sending more photos one after another. He said, guess what? Will he come home tonight? I blocked and deleted him. 16. Sitting at home, I hesitantly asked Qingyang what he was doing. He replied quickly, having dinner with friends. In the end, I still couldn't bring myself to ask, when will you be back? Around 10 p.m., then I'll wait until 10 p.m. Time ticked by as I sat anxiously waiting on the sofa. By 11 o'clock, Qingyang still hadn't returned, not even sending a single message. Zhou Yuan called me using a different phone. See, didn't I tell you all men are the same? But I don't understand what his intention was in doing this. So what if Qingyang really betrays me? If he betrays me, then I'll just break up with him and move on to the next one. It's that simple. I will never lose the courage to try just because I get hurt. When the girl who used to like Zhou Yuan told me he wasn't good enough for me, my first instinct was doubt. He's kind, good-hearted, and has countless virtues. How could he not be good enough for me? Now looking back objectively at these 2 years I spent taking care of him, he had a bad temper and was self-destructive, unwilling to try despite having access to the most advanced medical equipment. Now he even wants to drag me down into his self-destruction. He really doesn't deserve me. I waited at home until 1 a.m. Qingyang still didn't come back. But why was I waiting? Why should I trust Zhou Yuan's words instead of going to ask myself, why should matters between the two of us involve Zhou Yuan's interference? I put on my coat and pushed open the door. Just as I went downstairs, I happened to run into Qingyang from our building. 17. He got out of the car, and a girl was sitting in the back seat, the same one from the photo. Seeing me, he suddenly seemed flustered and called my name to explain. 1-1. I got back a little late. The woman in the car also noticed me and waved at me. The car was about to leave, but I stopped it just before it drove away. The driver scolded me for not knowing the danger, so I knocked on the car window. A woman revealed a pretty face and asked me, "What's wrong?" I asked her, "Are you Qingyang's first love?" Hearing this, she flusteredly explained, "You're Qingyang's current girlfriend, right? Don't misunderstand. I'm just here on a business trip." I interrupted her. "Yes or no?" Qingyang realized I was angry and leaned in to explain anxiously. "There was traffic, so I came back a bit late." He said 10 p.m., but now it's 1 a.m. Does traffic really jam for several hours? I asked again. Yes or no? Yes. During our relationship, Qingyang never told me about this first love from beginning to end. Some people might not mind, but I do. I broke up with Qingyang on the spot. The girl panicked and got out of the car to try to persuade me, following behind me sentence after sentence. "I didn't mean to disturb you. We just happened to run into each other. Qingyang was also traveling here, so we had a meal together. We really didn't do anything. You can check the surveillance footage." The more she talked, the more unmoved I remained. In the end, it was Qingyang who spoke up. "Shut up." She stood there at a loss, and Qingyang stopped to say to her, "You go ahead first." He watched the girl leave, then turned around to catch up with me, following me home and blocking the door to prevent me from entering. "We need to talk." I looked up at him and said, "No need anymore." When I agreed to date him, I made it clear that both of us should be honest with each other. I told him everything in detail. Yet he hid the fact about his first love and concealed having meals with her. I'm not made of wood. I only chose to act like wood because I was with him. The first time, I only dared to gently press and knead while he was asleep. I choose to turn a blind eye to others' kindness and respond with indifference. "Let's just break up." then, 18. This relationship was announced quickly and ended just as swiftly. When friends asked me to bring Qingyang along, I openly said, we broke up. My friend sighed in sympathy, then immediately tried setting me up with someone new. I still refused. I'm still holding out for someone genuine. If that person doesn't exist, I'd rather be alone. Zhou Yuan's mother still calls me, begging me to go see Zhou Yuan. I still didn't agree, sent her all the recipes and prescriptions, and booked a flight back to my hometown. This time I didn't miss the flight, and Qingyang was sitting beside me when I took my seat. He smiled with crescent eyes and said to me, sis, we didn't miss each other this time, but he doesn't even want to understand why I'm angry. He just blindly wants to make up with me. I was wrong. Let's make up. Forgive me. Let's be good again. He kept repeating these words over and over. Back when he pursued me, he would overanalyze every punctuation mark I used. But now he can't even be bothered to give a proper explanation. What's more, I repeatedly refused even when Zhou Yuan's mother just wanted to meet me once. I genuinely can't think of any reason why he absolutely must see his first love. Let's not reconcile. Let's just leave it at that. After getting off the plane, he stood there waiting. When I hailed a taxi and looked back, he had already left as expected, a sincere and passionate child, restless at heart, but it's okay. At least I got to enjoy his passion. I will still embark on the next relationship with eager anticipation. Story 2. I was reborn along with my husband who loved me deeply. In the previous life, he was a talented and brilliant director, and I was a top-tier actress in the spotlight. As a husband and wife team, we worked together and achieved lifelong glory. At the moment of his passing, the last words he left to the world were, I was the muse of his life. Reborn back to the audition set of Meng Chen's new film before my debut. All the actors were nervous, but I alone raised a confident smile. He would choose me, he was mine, until Meng Chen casually walked past me and pointed at another beautiful face. I suddenly realized that he perhaps didn't want to live the same life as in the previous life, nor did he want to love the same person again. 1. It took me a while to react and realize that I was at the audition set for Spring Comes. I also realized that I had been reborn. For a moment, I was a bit confused as to why I had been reborn. Speaking arrogantly, I thought my life in the previous life was so perfect that there were no regrets. In terms of my career, I was a glamorous actress who won the Oscar Lifetime Achievement Award. In terms of my family, although we didn't have children because we were a dink couple, I had a husband who loved me the most in the world, Meng Chen. We got to know each other because of Spring Comes, starting as two unknowns in the film industry. We walked side by side to the peak of the film world. Everyone said that we were a combination of geniuses and that our love was an immortal myth in the entertainment industry. The only regret, perhaps, was that Meng Chen was too hardworking when he was young. He passed away at the age of 60. Before he died, he held my hand and said that I was the muse of his life. I couldn't stop crying and held his hand back. If there is an afterlife, I still want to fall in love with you. Meng Chen smiled and closed his eyes forever. Not long after he passed away, I also died of a broken heart within 2 years. When I opened my eyes again, I was back here. This year, I was 19 years old, a sophomore at the Film Academy, and was about to debut as the female lead in Spring Comes, and then embark on that infinitely starry path. Although I still didn't understand the reason for being reborn, after calming down, I naturally accepted it. With such a happy life, why not have it again? Here he comes. Director Meng is here. He's coming to announce the audition results. After someone shouted these words, the noisy set suddenly fell silent. I raised my head and looked straight at the young man walking towards us. 2. He was wearing a simple black shirt, with his sleeves casually rolled up to his elbows, revealing his strong forearms. His eyebrows and eyes had a somewhat cold look, yet there was also a familiar tenderness. My heart skipped a beat instantly. That was Meng Chen. Meng Chen when he was young. Several girls beside me started whispering, Director Meng is so handsome. He could clearly rely on his good looks, but he insists on relying on his talent in the entertainment industry. I couldn't help but snicker. In a few years, he would turn into a slovenly uncle, not washing his face or combing his hair, with a beard, and staying in the editing room all day long. But what I loved had never been Meng Chen's appearance, at this point in time. It should be when Meng Chen had just won a new director award, although it wasn't a very prestigious award. For our students at the Film Academy, he was already a big shot. Who do you think Director Meng will choose? Sigh. I was too nervous just now and didn't perform well. I hope I can get a small supporting role at least. Everyone present had tension written all over their faces, but I alone smiled confidently. The more they praised him, the more satisfied I felt. This was such an excellent man, and from the very beginning, the only person in his eyes was me, Lin Wanyue. He loved me for a lifetime, doted on me for a lifetime, and even confessed his love to me before he died. I raised my head and locked my gaze firmly on Meng Chen. I wasn't sure if it was an illusion, but his gaze also landed on me. I gave him a smile, but the next second, Meng Chen's gaze casually shifted away. We have already selected the female lead for Spring Comes. He picked up his notebook and said in a low and calm voice, Lu Ying. All eyes turned in unison towards a quiet girl in the corner. The girl opened her eyes in surprise. Her face was blushing and she looked timid, like an innocent little deer, and I was stunned. Why? Why didn't Meng Chen choose me as he did in the previous life? What had happened? 3. The female lead of Spring Comes should be me. This was not only my debut work, but the female lead was also the representative role of my life. I felt both strange and puzzled. Could it be that because of my rebirth, there was some kind of butterfly effect? Where had it gone wrong? In the previous life, Meng Chen told me that as soon as he saw my audition performance, he was certain that the female lead had to be me. Wanyue, you were born for the movies. Although you were only 19 years old during the audition for Spring Comes and hadn't acted in a leading role yet, I immediately decided that your acting career would surely be limitless in the future. The words that Meng Chen secretly confessed to me later made me feel both shy and happy. But why now? Did he choose someone else? I clenched my fists tightly, and my fingertips trembled restlessly. If there was no Spring Comes, how would I have an intersection with Meng Chen in this life? In the previous life, during the filming of Spring Comes, Meng Chen and I began to get to know each other and developed a little bit of affection, but because of the 7-year age gap, we didn't rashly decide to start a relationship. What truly brought us together was the failure of Spring Comes. That literary film carefully crafted by Meng Chen suffered a huge box office failure after its release. The audience disliked its slow pace, couldn't understand the plot, and even questioned Meng Chen's directing skills, saying that he was being pretentious and didn't understand movies at all. However, this failed Spring Comes brought me into the spotlight, because in the movie, Meng Chen filmed me extremely beautifully. A top-voted film review said that the female lead in front of the camera was like the moon hanging high in the sky. Fragile yet stubborn, lonely yet free. After that, I gained a large number of fans who loved my appearance and acting skills. However, Meng Chen's public opinion situation was the complete opposite, and he was severely criticized. Some even said that his bad movie wasted my appearance and acting skills. I felt extremely guilty about this, so I began to often comfort him, encourage him, and affirm his talent on WeChat. Our communication increased more and more. We talked from movies to life, and from life to dreams. Later, we frequently made appointments to go out and relax. Finally, on a starry night, he took my hand. Wanyue, I don't want to wait anymore. If you like me too, I stood on tiptoe and kissed him. Let's be together. And then, we loved each other for a lifetime. 4. Why did he choose Lu Ying? It doesn't seem to match the female lead's character either. Many people around me became restless just like me. The female lead of Spring Comes was a woman with great ups and downs in her life. From being young and inexperienced to becoming mature, it required a more mature-looking face, and Lu Ying, whom Meng Chen chose this time, had a more childlike face. How could she possibly hold up this role? Meng Chen spoke again. We made a few changes to the script. The focus is on the female lead's campus period. Considering all aspects, Lu Ying is the most suitable. His voice of explanation was still calm. I was stunned. The script had been changed. Meng Chen continued to talk about the content of the new script, and the more I listened, the more shocked I became. This was not the Spring Comes of the previous life at all. The new script had a stronger storyline and a faster pace, and it had almost become a popcorn commercial movie. This was completely not Meng Chen's style. After listening to the explanation, although the other actors were still a bit dissatisfied, they could only accept it. I packed my bag and walked out in a daze with the crowd. Suddenly, I heard a girl beside me gossiping. I heard a long time ago that Meng Chen and Lu Ying are a couple. It's just that he chose someone with connections and still pretended to hold an audition. I stopped in my tracks abruptly. It couldn't be true. Meng Chen wasn't that kind of person. I turned around and ran back, guided by my intuition. I stood outside the restroom. The door was slightly ajar, and Lu Ying's voice came out. Mr. Meng, I thought you wouldn't choose me to avoid suspicion. I suddenly remembered. Lu Ying was a student whom Meng Chen had taught acting before. In my impression, Meng Chen had always been cold and steady. In the previous life, even when he was being criticized by the whole internet, He was always calm and unhurried. Even on the day we got married, he just smiled a little more brightly than usual. I had never seen him lose his composure, but now, he suddenly reached out and hugged Lu Ying tightly in his arms. His possessiveness made me feel strange. Silly girl. It was precisely to choose you that the teacher changed the script. Can't you even see that? Lu Ying's tears welled up immediately. Last month, after I confessed my love to you, you said we shouldn't meet again. It was the teacher's mistake. Mengchen looked down at her. His voice was low, but it carried an unshakable firmness. You can do whatever you want, and the teacher won't run away from his feelings anymore. But you also have to promise the teacher that no matter what happens, you must live well. Lu Ying looked up at him in surprise for a long time. Mengchen smiled, bent down, and kissed her cheek. On the way back to school, it rained heavily, and I didn't have an umbrella. The rain flowed down my hair, soaking my clothes, and it was bone-chillingly cold, but compared to the coldness of my body, the chill in my heart made me feel even more suffocated. I finally realized that Mengchen had also been reborn. He should have been reborn earlier than me, so he changed the script and remade spring come specifically for Lu Ying. I seemed to want to run and question him. Why did he do this? Why didn't he come to me? What did everything we had in the previous life mean? But where did I get the confidence and right to do so? In the eyes of outsiders, Mengchen and Lin Wanyue were just two strangers who hadn't had any intersection yet. Yes, the deep affection we had in the past was all in the previous life. Mengchen just wanted to choose another kind of life in this life, a life without me. 5. While having a meal in the cafeteria, I scrolled through the news related to the casting of Spring Comes. After Mengchen chose his former student Lu Ying as the lead actress in his new film, it caused a huge stir on the internet. Many people were speculating about the true relationship between the two. There were also many CP fans emerging. This is so exciting. An older man, younger woman, teacher-student love affair. The man is handsome and the woman is beautiful. An uncle and a young girl. A classic configuration of an idol drama CP. I'm so into it. I just like this kind of sense of moral violation that breaks through reason. If you can't stop it, just let it be. I stared at these comments, and my heart seemed to be tightly gripped by something. Wanyue, what's wrong? You look so pale. Li Yunyun, who was sitting opposite me, asked with concern. It's nothing. I'm just a bit tired. Li Yunyun's eyes showed even more worry. She was my best friend. In the previous life, when she was young, she earned enough money and fame by acting in idol dramas. In middle age, she resolutely transformed into the background and became a successful producer. She was always like this, knowing what she wanted, while I, after being reborn, was becoming more and more confused. Is it because of the audition? Sigh. I know you've seen director Meng's previous movies and like him very much, but after all, we're only sophomores, and it's normal not to get the role in one audition. I lowered my head and poked the rice in the bowl with my chopsticks, not saying a word. Li Yunyun sighed. Don't be sad. I've received invitations for several online dramas recently. Do you want to go and try them together? Although it's not as good as a big screen production, it's still an opportunity. I'll think about it, I said softly, but my heart was in a mess. The things in the previous life were like a movie, constantly replaying in my mind. Those details that I had once ignored were now so clear that they were blinding. I remembered that in the previous life, I first became aware of Lu Ying not long after Mengchen and I officially announced our relationship. Lu Ying blocked us backstage at a press conference. She's only 1 year older than me. Why can she do it, but I can't? Mengchen was silent for a long time. It's not about the age. I'm the teacher, and you're the student. There was a kind of tiredness in his tone that I had never heard before. Lu Ying's tears welled up immediately. She turned around and ran away, her back looking as thin as a fallen leaf. Later, Lu Ying acted in many plays, but she never became popular. I heard that she went to be with a company boss, and later it was exposed that she was the mistress. After the public opinion came crashing down, she chose to commit suicide. After the news of Lu Ying's suicide broke out, Mengchen locked himself in the study alone and stared blankly for a long time. I just thought that he was sad because of the loss of his student. Later, every year on Lu Ying's Memorial Day, he would go to her grave to pay his respects. I accompanied him for 2 or 3 years until I encountered a foreign film festival and I said with difficulty that I couldn't spare the time this time. Mengchen said, "You're so heartless." I was shocked at that time. I didn't know Lu Ying well, and accompanying him for 2 years was already more than enough. Why did Mengchen say that to me because of her? But then I thought, after all, he was a director of literary films, and it was normal for him to be a bit more sensitive and delicate. Later, Mengchen apologized, and we made up, and he never asked me to go to the grave again, so I didn't take these things about Lu Ying to heart at all, but now I suddenly understood. In Meng Chen's heart, there had always been a place for Lu Ying. This time after being reborn, he wanted to make up for the regret. He would never let go of Lu Ying again. Buzz. Suddenly, my phone vibrated. It was a text message from an unknown number. Miss Lin Wanyue, we think your audition performance was excellent. Would you like to play the second female lead in Spring Comes? The second female lead. 6. Li Yunyan leaned over and took a look. And her eyes immediately lit up. Wanyue, this is an opportunity. Although you didn't get the female lead, the second female lead is also good. After all, it's Meng Chen's film. I shook my head and threw the phone aside. I'm not going. Why? Didn't you say you liked Meng Chen's movies before you went for the audition? I don't like them anymore. I smiled self-deprecatingly. The new Spring Comes as a hodgepodge. Meng Chen plagiarized the plots of countless blockbuster movies from the future of the previous life. The former Meng Chen clearly despised plagiarism the most. He said that if he ran out of talent, he would rather be an ordinary person than do something like plagiarism. But now, in order to make Spring Comes a huge success and to definitely make Lu Ying popular, he has even abandoned his principles. Okay, I respect your decision. So, what are your plans next? Li Yunyan asked curiously. I shook my head and casually scrolled through the messages on my phone. Suddenly, I saw the latest push from the school's official WeChat account. The school youth league committee was recruiting actors to shoot a public welfare short film. My eyes lit up immediately. Yun, I want to give this a try. The audition was held in the school's small auditorium. Not many people came, just a few scattered students. After all, for this kind of public welfare project, there was neither the guidance of a renowned director nor much exposure on the platform. The students at the Film Academy were all busy networking for various entertainment industry resources. Who would care about such a role? After the teacher announced the start of the audition, I stood on the stage, took a deep breath, and closed my eyes. The memories of the previous life came flooding back like a tide, the joys, sorrows, laughter, and tears in front of the camera, and the joys, sorrows, separations, and reunions in those roles had long been integrated into my blood. I opened my eyes and started to perform. The audience gradually fell silent, until the performance ended. Several judges still kept their eyes open and didn't say a word. The other students who were auditioning also stared at me blankly. Just as I started to get nervous, one of the judges excitedly clapped his hands. Great, it's so great. Which class are you from? How can you act so well? In an instant, the entire auditorium erupted into thunderous applause. Standing on the stage and looking at the surprised eyes in the audience, I suddenly realized something. That's right. Although I was reborn, my acting skills didn't start over. This was the acting skills of a future Triple Crown actress. I, Lin Wanyue, would never be buried like this. Amid the applause of the crowd, my heart boiled with excitement. So what if there was no Spring Comes? And so what if there was no Meng Chen? I, Lin Wanyue, would continue to walk on my path to stardom in this life. Not only would I win back the awards I won in the previous life, but I also wanted to act in more and more meaningful works in this life. This was not only the responsibility of an actor but also the conscience of an artist. Just like the line in my favorite movie, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, be proud of your life, have the courage to start all over again. 7. I successfully joined the shooting of the school's public welfare film. At the same time, Spring Comes started filming. This film frequently appeared on the top of the trending searches. However, compared to the film itself, most of the public opinion focused on the gossip between Meng Chen and Lu Ying. Since the reporter secretly took photos of Lu Ying moving into Meng Chen's house, the two of them no longer avoided it. They walked in and out hand in hand every day. In the parking lot, Meng Chen still had a cigarette between his fingers. With his other hand, he held the back of Lu Ying's neck and kissed her passionately and persistently. On the snack street, Meng Chen gently wiped the corner of Lu Ying's mouth with a handkerchief. Then he suddenly covered her entire face and rubbed it. Lu Ying playfully punched his chest, and Meng Chen had a mischievous smile on his face like a teenager who had succeeded in a prank. Also, backstage at the film festival, Meng Chen, who never liked socializing with others, suddenly took the initiative to ask a male celebrity for an autograph. When asked by the reporter, the corner of his mouth raised. A little friend likes him. The comment sections under these news articles boiled over again and again. He called her a little friend. This man is so charming. It's so sweet. Lu Ying must have saved the galaxy in her previous life. She can conquer a man like Director Meng. our littling deserves it. She's a cute and well-behaved little son. Even if I were a man, I'd be attracted to her. I mechanically scrolled through these comments with my fingers, and every word made my eyes sting. I had never seen Mengchen like this before, vivid, lively, and full of youthful spirit. So this was what he was like when he met his true love. 2 months later, the shooting of Spring Comes was completed, and it entered the post-production stage. Those overwhelming gossip news finally subsided. At the same time, the public welfare film Moonlight shot by our school was also released. There was no promotion or publicity, and no trending topics. It was just briefly pushed on the school's official website and WeChat account. On the poster, in front of the gray teaching building, a girl stood alone with her back facing the camera, and the moonlight shone on her shoulders. There was a line of text below, dedicated to all the souls still struggling in the dark. Moonlight tells the story of a lame little girl from a poor family with a preference for boys over girls. She relied on herself to get into university and leave the mountains. A day passed, and the number of views did not exceed 10,000, and there were only dozens of reposts and comments. But we were all very calm. This was the norm for a low-budget public welfare film. Some things are not made for popularity but to convey certain voices. When shooting, all of us put in 100% of our energy and enthusiasm, and that was enough. Until that night, the small group chat suddenly exploded. Oh my god, our public welfare film is on the trending searches. Wanyue, go and take a look. Many people are praising your acting. I opened Weibo in surprise and found that the source of the trending search was a well-known film critic blogger who reposted our public welfare film, and with the caption, compared to some commercial films that are constantly hyping up gossip, this is what people should watch. Overnight, the popularity of Moonlight suddenly spread like wildfire. Netizens gave it extremely high praise. Wow, I was moved to tears. This is the real art of film. All girls should watch this. Studying is our best way out. Many people also noticed me, the female lead. Acting like this at the age of 19 is simply a talent. God is literally feeding her the opportunity. The female lead is so beautiful, and her acting skills are also amazing. I'm a fan now. More and more netizens were voluntarily promoting it. Various highlight clips of Moonlight went viral on short video platforms. Within a week, the number of views actually exceeded 1 million. Even the official film channel sent us an invitation. When asked about my creative ideals by the host, I smiled and said, at my age, it's still too immature to talk about creative ideals. Now I just want to convey good things to everyone. Where the sun can't shine, I hope there will still be moonlight shining in. For a moment, the netizens were even more excited. This is the real actor. She's not aiming for fame but to convey value. She's much better than some actors who rely on gossip to hype themselves up and have empty heads. Everyone should learn what it means to have substance in what you say. I could see that many netizens were comparing and belittling Spring Comes, which had been full of gossip during the same period. Mengchen should be able to see that too, but for some reason, he still liked and reposted our public welfare film. It's a very good public welfare film, and the female lead acted very well. Especially well. Her future is definitely limitless. I stared fixedly at this Weibo post, and my eyes suddenly felt hot. Those memories that I had deliberately tried to forget came flooding back like a tide. Mengchen at the age of 26 squatted in the corner of the Spring Comes set and put Lin Wanyue's red and cold hands under his coat to warm them up when she was 19. Mengchen at the age of 27 pressed Lin Wanyue, who came to visit the set, against the door of the editing room. His breath was hot. I haven't seen you for 2 months, and I can't wait until the filming is finished. Mengchen at the age of 30 stood at the end of the red carpet and gently wiped the corner of Lin Wanyue's eye with his fingertips. I will love you for a lifetime, whether in poverty or wealth. A lifetime was clearly so long, but he had seriously fulfilled his promise. But why was his love only for one lifetime? We had walked on so many red carpets, through the starlight. And through the years, our smiles, our tears, our resonance, our wishes for the world. For Mengchen, it had all become a movie that had already ended. In this life, did nothing count anymore? The memories that came flooding in like a tide gradually ebbed away again. The cold wind woke me up and dried the tears at the corners of my eyes. Lin Wanyue, this must be the last time you cry for him. I wiped away my tears vigorously, opened the Weibo fan list, and without hesitation, added the newly added fan director Mengchen to the blacklist. 9. The success of Moonlight was like a stepping stone, opening the door to the entertainment industry for me. I was only a sophomore at that time, but I already had a continuous stream of acting offers. Soon, I officially started filming my first film as the female lead, The Little Tree. a humanistic film telling the story of a deaf-mute female painter. The director was also a newcomer. To save money, the film didn't have any magnificent sets, nor any complex special effects. More than half of it was filmed using scenes from the streets and parks. However, the script was very serious, and it reflected the director's sincere heart, just like Meng-Chen used to be. At the same time, Spring Comes was also completed and released. As expected, it was a huge hit, and the topics flooded all social media platforms. After all, Meng-Chen had borrowed so many elements from blockbuster movies. If Spring Comes wasn't successful, I would have doubted whether his talent had stayed in the previous life. After the release of Spring Comes, the reviews were mixed. Many film critics mocked it, shallow, overly commercialized, and without an inner core. Director Meng has also succumbed to the market. It's completely different from the style of the film for which he won the New Director Award. Liu Ying's face is not suitable for the big screen, and her acting skills are just average. It is recommended that she try filming TV dramas first to get some experience, but there was no denying that the film was a hit. Meng-Chen became popular, and Liu Ying also became famous. From then on, we completely embarked on two different paths. I continued to study acting and never participated in variety shows for excessive exposure, when choosing which films to act in. I didn't care at all whether the co-actors were popular, whether the director was famous, or whether the investment was large. I only cared whether the script could move me. Although not every film I acted in was a hit, and many had mediocre box office results, my reputation in the entertainment industry was getting better and better. I gained a group of extremely loyal fans, and I even won my first Best Actress award earlier than in the previous life. But Meng-Chen was completely the opposite of what he was in the previous life, or rather, I could see that he himself was also in a state of indecision. After filming two popular commercial films, he suddenly announced that he was going to film a literary film, but Liu Ying didn't seem to be suitable for the feeling of a literary film at all. The media photographed the two of them arguing on the set several times. Once, Meng-Chen directly threw the script at Liu Ying's face and scolded her for being obtuse. Later, the female lead of this literary film was replaced by an unknown new actress by Meng-Chen. Although it was said that he and Liu Ying hadn't broken up yet, Liu Ying no longer acted in films directed by Meng-Chen. After leaving Meng-Chen's tailored roles, the two films in which Liu Ying starred as the female lead failed at the box office. Gradually, she was abandoned by the film industry, so she began to focus on idle TV dramas and also frequently appeared on variety shows. In this way, she barely maintained her popularity and topics. We all had our own paths. It was just that when I thought that I would never have any intersection with Meng-Chen in this life, we met at a film awards ceremony. Coincidentally, our seats were next to each other. 10. When I lifted my skirt and found my seat, Meng-Chen was already sitting there. He was wearing a black suit that was always appropriate. He had a cigarette in his hand originally. The moment he saw me, his eyes widened, and he quickly extinguished it. Juan, MS, Lin, hello. I nodded and calmly sat down beside him. Before the awards ceremony started, the lights dimmed, the big screen began to play clips of the nominated films one after another, and the applause and cheers came one after another. I watched your new film, The Female Emperor, he suddenly said, his voice as soft as a feather. You acted very well. Thank you. It's not just the new film. I've watched every film you've acted in. You're really the most talented actress I've ever seen. In fact, I've always wanted to have the opportunity to work with you. I was stunned for a moment and turned to look at Meng-Chen. The outline of his side face was somewhat gentle in the dim light. He smiled and said, I just don't know if you would be interested in working with me. What are you saying? Director Meng, you're also a very excellent director. It's just that in terms of choosing scripts, my preferences may not be very suitable for your style, I said calmly, but a trace of surprise crept into my heart. I had thought that Meng-Chen, like me, didn't want to have any intersection with the other party in this life. However, he probably still didn't know that I was also reborn. Maybe these were just polite words in social interactions and didn't need to be taken seriously. After being rejected, there was a moment of confusion on Meng-Chen's face, and he didn't say anything more. I thought our conversation would end there. The Female Emperor won numerous awards again, while Meng-Chen's film was just nominated and didn't win any awards. After the awards ceremony ended, I was about to leave after finishing the media interview, but he followed me. Is there a car coming to pick you up? Let me give you a ride. I was stunned for a moment and replied to him, yes. My assistant is coming to pick me up. Then he didn't say anything more. It was raining heavily outside. My assistant's car was still on the way. and Mengchen didn't get into his own car either. He just accompanied me and waited by the roadside. In the silent sound of the rain, he suddenly said, "Ms. Lin, do you know, I had a dream about the previous life." I didn't say a word and clenched the skirt with my fingertips. He continued, "In the previous life, I chose you as the female lead of Spring Comes. Although the box office of Spring Comes failed, we got along very well and gradually got together. Sorry, Director Meng, my car is here." I smiled and pointed to the white car approaching in the distance, interrupting his words. Mengchen stared at me blankly. I waved goodbye to him. "I don't believe in past lives and this life. People should just live this life well. If you often have dreams like this, you can go see a doctor. Maybe you've been under too much psychological pressure recently. By the way, I'm still waiting for the wedding candies from you and Ms. Liu. After such a long relationship, don't let her down." Meng Chen's lips moved, but in the end, he didn't say anything. The moment I closed the car door, I finally let out a sigh of relief. My assistant asked curiously, "Sister, what did Director Meng Chen say to you? Did he invite you to act in a film?" "It's nothing, we just chatted casually." The car gradually drove into the rain. The streetlights were blurred into hazy spots of light in the rain. I felt a little uneasy in my heart. What did Meng Chen mean by saying these things to me? 11. My uneasiness didn't come out of nowhere. After that day, Meng Chen somehow got my WeChat ID. When I saw the friend request, I hesitated for a long time, and finally clicked accept. That night, his messages popped up one after another. "Ms. Lin, do you have time recently? Can I invite you to dinner?" I declined. "Do you have any upcoming activities? If you're free, how about going hiking or something together?" I said I was preparing my body for the next movie and wouldn't be going out. "Do you have any favorite movies? Which actor do you like?" Meng Chen even mentioned many movies and actors in advance. All of them were the ones I liked in my previous life. Having lived 2 lifetimes, I wasn't so dull that I couldn't sense what he meant. He was showing his affection for me, and he wanted to pursue me, but I was even more confused. What had happened between him and Lu Ying? Meng Chen started to contact me frequently on WeChat. The messages piled up like a mountain. Since we often ran into each other in the entertainment industry, I couldn't bring myself to block him. After thinking about it for a long time, I finally decided to invite him out and make things clear. "Let's have dinner together tomorrow. I really have something I want to talk to you about." As soon as I sent this message, he replied okay instantly, so quickly that it seemed he was afraid I would go back on my word. When I arrived at the restaurant the next day, Meng Chen was already waiting in the private room. He was wearing a very formal suit, and there was a bouquet of red roses on the table. When he saw me, he smiled, and there was a hint of anticipation in his eyes. "Wan Yue." I still addressed him politely, "Director Meng." He smiled awkwardly and pointed to the menu. "I've already ordered the dishes. Take a look. Are they the ones you like?" Of course, they were all my preferences from the previous life, and he remembered them clearly. I nodded and sat down opposite him. "You finally agreed to have dinner with me. That's great." Meng Chen smiled happily, and there was even a trace of shyness. He poured me a glass of water. "We're all adults, and I don't want to be too coy about many things. Actually, you like me, you want to pursue me." Meng Chen's face instantly turned red. I smiled, picked up the tea, and took a sip. "Then when you were reborn, why didn't you pursue me? Why did you choose Lu Ying first?" Meng Chen's face turned pale in an instant, and his lips trembled. "Wan Yue, I was reborn too, just like you," I said calmly. 12. The air fell silent, and we stared at each other wordlessly for a long time. Finally, he spoke, his voice hoarse. "When did you come back?" "I came back during the audition for Spring Comes." "During the audition for Spring Comes? It was 6 years ago," Meng Chen murmured, and his eyes suddenly showed disbelief. "Then why didn't you come to me? Why didn't you come to question me during that time of Spring Comes?" Xie Chen, the female lead of Spring Comes, was a character you really liked. I let out a soft laugh, with a hint of self-mockery in my tone. "At the moment when you chose Lu Ying as the new female lead, was there any need for me to question you?" Meng Chen, I also have my own reserve and self-esteem. Meng Chen fell silent again. After a long time, he said softly, "I'm sorry." I closed my eyes and suppressed the surging emotions in my heart. "In the previous life, was what you felt for me fake? How could it be? How could it be fake?" Meng Chen became agitated, grabbed his hair with both hands, and roared, "Wan Yue, I love you. I've loved you for a lifetime, but Xiao Ying's death has always been a hurdle in my heart. I keep thinking that if I had accepted her and been with her at that time, would the things that happened later not have occurred, even if we didn't stay together for a long time, as long as I had truly faced her and been with her for 2 or 3 months. I admit that I had a bit of a crush on her in the previous life, but that wasn't love. It couldn't compare to my love for you, just after she died. This feeling turned into an obsession. I had a perfect life with you, but my obsession with her didn't fade away even until I died, so when you were reborn, you chose her instead of me. I interrupted him, my tone calm but cold. You wanted to live a different life, Meng Chen. Everyone said that we were a combination of geniuses and an unbreakable love myth in the entertainment industry. After we got together later, I realized that our preferences and values didn't match. I brought up breaking up several times, but Xiaoying was very fragile, and I was afraid she would do something stupid, until half a year ago, after another big argument, I finally couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't ruin my own life for hers. I've also made her famous. I've done everything I could. I don't want to sacrifice my love for her. Wanyue, I love you. It's only you, and it's always been you. I looked at Meng Chen with red eyes, but there was not the slightest ripple in my heart. Meng Chen, don't deceive yourself, I said softly, with a trace of pity in my tone. You just experienced the goodness of the red rose, so in this life, you want to try the white rose, but after finding that the white rose isn't that good, you want to come back and pursue the red rose. But why should I stay for you? Meng Chen was stunned, his eyes full of shock and pain. I picked up my bag, stood up, and said calmly but firmly, Meng Chen, love isn't an experiment. You can't just try different flavors because you've tasted one kind of sweetness, and then come back to look for the sweetness in the end. I'm not a tool for your perfect life, and I won't wait for you here forever. I have my own life and my own path, and you have already made your choice. Goodbye. No, let's not meet again. Lin Wanyue and Meng Chen in this life had no intersection in the past, and there won't be any intersection in the future either. I turned around and left. When I pushed open the door of the private room, the cold wind rushed in and scattered the rose petals on the table. Just like those sealed memories, they would eventually be scattered in the passage of time. Story 2. When I was 4, during a charity trip to the mountains with my parents, I was nearly kidnapped by traffickers. It was Xiaowan who saved me. My parents offered to sponsor her, and seizing the opportunity, she played the victim and ingratiated herself into our home using her tragic circumstances as leverage. Driven by jealousy, she later killed me and poisoned my parents, taking over our villa and wealth. My whole family met a tragic end, yet she thrived by flaunting her wealth and became a major internet celebrity with millions of fans. When I opened my eyes again, I was standing in Xiaowan's drafty stone house. Before my parents could propose sponsoring Xiaowan, I timidly asked, Mom, what does little bastard mean? Hearing me swear, my mom's face turned stern immediately. Who taught you that? I naively pointed at Xiaowan's mother. Auntie called me that, and she also took Grandma's jade necklace. Xiaowan's mother turned deathly pale instantly. Standing by, the skinny Xiaowan had been lost in thought the whole time. My dad was the first to react, going to fetch my mom's purse. Sure enough, the jade necklace was missing. My grandmother had passed away last month, and the necklace was the only thing she left for my mom. Our charity trip to the mountains was also to fulfill my grandmother's last wish to donate her legacy. In my past life, we only realized the necklace was missing after returning home, due to the necklace's value. My mom reported it to the police, but in the underdeveloped mountain area, with no surveillance on the roads and a complex population spread across villages, it was impossible to find. Xiaowan's mother wailed, claiming we were slandering her. Her demeanor made her look innocent. It was only after my death that I saw Xiaowan's mother, unable to get money from Xiaowan and desperate to buy her son a house and get him married, sell the necklace. While I was still in shock, Xiaowan's mother, furious to the extreme, spit at us. Picking up a farming tool, she drove us out. What kind of philanthropists are you, looking down on us just because we're poor? You damn little bastards, get out. Her shrewish curses attracted many neighbors. This also snapped Xiaowan out of her daze. With clarity returning to her eyes after a brief pause, she rushed past her mother and came out. Uncle, Auntie, it was my mom who took the necklace. I'll get it and return it to you. I really want to go to school. Please help me, considering I saved Man yesterday. Hearing Xiaowan's words, her mother's features contorted in rage. You ungrateful wretch. To curry favor with these rich folks you even slander your own mother. I'll kill you. Xiaowan's mother ruthlessly hit her with a shovel again and again. Many villagers tried to intervene but were pushed away with the shovel. The village echoed with Xiaowan's screams. Finally, my parents called the police. The police arrived in time and put an end to the chaos. After Qiao Wan's mother was restrained, Qiao Wan, injured and limping, went into the inner room. She brought out the jade necklace. Caught red-handed, Qiao Wan's mother was arrested on the spot. My parents secured the necklace but made no mention of the sponsorship. When Qiao Wan's father returned from the fields, my dad gave him some money as a gesture of appreciation. As we prepared to leave, Qiao Wan shouted in disbelief, "Wait, that's it." My mom turned to look at her puzzled, and my dad instinctively shielded me with his body. "It's not supposed to be like this. You were going to sponsor me. If it wasn't for me, this cheap, no, man would have been kidnapped. Mom, Dad, you'll take me with you, right?" Her frantic words confused others, but I understood. In her previous life, to maintain her facade of a wealthy and privileged woman, she said my parents were like her own, immediately calling them Mom and Dad. My mom corrected her a few times, and seeing that she didn't change, she simply stopped mentioning it. My dad just avoided her altogether. I never expected Qiao Wan to have been reborn too. Hearing her address us, both my parents' faces darkened. Qiao Wan's father instantly changed his expression, cursing as he slapped her on the head. Qiao Wan, her eyes filled with rage, tried to fight back, but her father kicked her down to the ground. My mom covered my eyes with her hands and quickly hugged me into the car. Meanwhile, Qiao Wan, barefoot, chased after the car, crying and shouting until she could no longer keep up with us. My dad shifted his gaze from the rearview mirror and asked with a frown, "Does this girl have some mental issues? With parents like that, it would be odd if she turned out well. It's a good thing we didn't start off by offering to sponsor her. Otherwise, we would never be able to shake them off like a sticky plaster." My dad nodded in agreement. My eyelashes slowly drooped twice. Qiao Wan didn't know that my parents highly value my education. After encountering Qiao Wan's family, they would never let me get involved with her. Before we left, a village representative found us. Dingxi village was poor and remote, with too many children unable to afford schooling. Missing this opportunity, who knows when the next one would come. She handed my parents a list. Each child on the list had their photo and family information attached. She hoped my parents could sponsor at least one child's education. After yesterday's incident with Qiao Wan's family, my parents were somewhat reluctant, but facing the earnest look of the village representative, they didn't know how to refuse. I casually flipped through the list and said, "Mom and Dad, the person who saved me the day before yesterday is this big brother here." Upon hearing this, my parents turned their heads. The village representative, recognizing the child I pointed to, immediately beamed with joy. "That's little Ayuan. He just started 3rd grade and ranked first in the recent baseline assessment in our town. His mom was a college graduate from our village. She had to give up her job in the city and return home to take care of her father after he broke his leg at a construction site. Then she got married and had children. After discussing, my parents relented. They decided to visit Song Ziyuan's home the next day. I insisted on going right away to thank the big brother in person. Unable to persuade me otherwise, my parents drove us there. In my past life, it was indeed Song Ziyuan who saved me from a kidnapper. When Qiao Wan and I were running, Song Ziyuan held the kidnapper tightly around the waist to stop him from chasing us. I originally wanted to call for help to save him, but Qiao Wan told me that the kidnapper was a relative of Song Ziyuan's family. They staged this whole drama to swindle money from my parents. I believed it to be true. I met Song Ziyuan again when I started university. He returned to our school as an outstanding graduate to give a speech. The school was full of legends about him. They said he was the only person in the history of university to be both a scholar and a heartthrob. He studied interior design and started taking on projects to earn money since his freshman year. Before even graduating, he received offers from several top companies. After building connections and gaining experience in a major company, he quickly resigned to start his own business and had become a leader in his field. I never imagined that such a person would confess his feelings to me, but I publicly rejected him because of what happened in my childhood, until Song Ziyuan attended my funeral. From the sarcastic and derogatory comments of Qiao Wan, I learned that after we fled that day, Song Ziyuan was beaten by the kidnapper, breaking his leg and nearly causing a lifelong disability. The kidnapper was not his relative. The last memory I had was at a social media awards ceremony backstage, where Song Ziyuan fiercely plunged a pen into Qiao Wan's forehead. In my past life, he avenged me. This time, it was my turn to protect him. In the hospital, Song Ziyuan's parents warmly welcomed us. After understanding the situation, my parents immediately arranged for Song Ziyuan's transfer to another hospital. they consulted an orthopedic expert from the provincial hospital for a specialist examination. After confirming that Song Ziyuan's leg could fully recover, his parents, with tears in their eyes, expressed their gratitude to my parents. At his bedside, I asked Song Ziyuan, "Does it hurt?" He shook his head. I looked at him intently and said, "Big brother, thank you for that day. You have to get well soon." "I will. What's your name?" he asked. "Shen Man. My name is Song Ziyuan. Here, this is for you." He opened his palm to reveal my hair clip. In my previous life, after I rejected him, he returned this same hair clip to me. Back then, I threw it straight into the trash can. Now, I wish I could go back in time and slap myself for that. When I looked up at him again, my eyes curved into a smile. "Keep this as a memento, big brother, remember me, and when I grow up, I'll come to find you." "Okay." Song Ziyuan carefully closed his hand around the hair clip again. My parents decided to sponsor Song Ziyuan's education, perhaps as an aftermath of being reborn. I fell ill with a high fever for a week once I got home. As soon as the fever subsided, I heard the tragic news about Song Ziyuan's family. Song Ziyuan's parents had died. Someone had poisoned their pot with rat poison. Song Ziyuan avoided this fate as he was staying in the hospital. The culprits were Qiao Wan's parents. They resented the Song family for taking the sponsorship they desired and harbored this grudge. Taking advantage of a visit to the hospital, they sneaked in and poisoned the pot. After the incident, they stood by as if nothing had happened, merely spectators to the tragedy. Song Ziyuan was now an orphan. Most of his relatives, barely making ends meet themselves, were unwilling to take him in. His education became an uncertainty. The village then called my parents to inform them of the details and suggested we temporarily halt our sponsorship. After discussing it, my parents decided to adopt Song Ziyuan. When we went to pick up Song Ziyuan, from afar, I could see a crowd gathered at the door of his hospital room. Through the noise, I heard Qiao Wan's sobbing voice. "Song Ziyuan, I beg you, please sign the forgiveness document. If my parents are imprisoned, it will ruin my life." I pushed through the crowd. I saw Qiao Wan kneeling at Song Ziyuan's feet, repeatedly bowing her head in desperation. I was immediately infuriated and rushed forward to pull her up. With a slap, I struck her face sharply. Everyone was shocked. Qiao Wan, regaining her composure, yelled, "What are you doing, Shen Man?" I was about to scold her, but seeing my parents approaching, I swallowed my words and instead said in a childlike tone, "Big sister, your parents killed Big Brother's parents. And you're forcing him to forgive them. You're a bad person. Also, I don't think I ever told you my name, so how did you know I'm Shen Man?" Reminded by my words, my parents also reacted. My mother quickly took me away, soothing me softly. My father, eyes full of suspicion, stared at Qiao Wan. "You and your parents had your sights set on our family from the start, didn't you? Was that human trafficker also hired by you?" In my past life, my parents had taken great care of Qiao Wan to make her feel at home, treating her even better than they treated me. They never scolded her for any minor mistake, let alone looked at her with such suspicion. Startled, Qiao Wan hurriedly defended herself. "Uncle, auntie, that day was the first time we met. I didn't know you before, and I had no idea you would come to the village. I heard you calling her Man, and I knew Uncle's surname was Shen, so I guessed that she must be Shen Man. Just now, it was Man who hit me first. Look at my face." She deliberately turned her face to specifically show her right side, yet, there was no trace of a finger mark on her face, not even a hint of redness. The slap I had given her, though loud, was merely with the strength of a child. I feigned fear and hid in my mother's embrace, beginning to cry pitifully. Qiao Wan was furious and ran outside to find the onlookers. "Grandma, tell them, didn't Shen Man hit me first, Uncle? You must have seen it, please tell them." But no one paid her any heed. Her voice gradually broke down. It wasn't until the village committee representative arrived and dispersed the crowd that Qiao Wan finally fell silent. I only saw Song Ziyuan when I entered the hospital room. Having not seen him for just a week, he looked even thinner. At an age when he should be growing, his face was so gaunt it was almost unrecognizable. Tears uncontrollably fell as I looked at him. I couldn't imagine how a 9-year-old child was supposed to live on his own from now on. My parents and the village committee head were discussing adoption. I walked straight to the bedside, and after inadvertently touching his icy, bone-chilling hand, I wrapped his hand tightly with my little hands and earnestly said, "Big brother, my parents will take care of you from now on, and I will play with you every day. Don't be sad." Song Ziyuan finally reacted. He turned his head to look at me. His blank eyes finally focused. Hearing my words, my mother also turned to look at him, saying sympathetically, "Yes, child, just like Man said, we are all willing to take care of you. Would you like to move in and live with us?" Before Song Ziyuan could respond, Xiaowan exploded in anger. "No, you can't adopt him, you should adopt me. I am your daughter, you all like me, don't you, Mom and Dad?" Her voice startled us, her eyes, inflamed with anger, swept over us. As her gaze turned toward me, I silently mouthed idiot and lip sync. Xiaowan caught on almost instantly, her gaze turned fierce, her eyes nearly splitting. "It's you, you've also been reborn, that's why you won't let Mom and Dad sponsor me to bring me home, it's all because of you, I will kill you." Xiaowan grabbed a fruit knife from a nearby fruit basket and charged at me. My father, usually so mild-mannered, immediately darkened his face and knocked the knife from her hand. He then twisted her arms behind her back. No matter how much Xiaowan struggled, she was just a child and it was futile. The village committee head called the police on the spot. Xiaowan was suspected of attempted murder and was sent to a juvenile detention center. Unbeknownst to us, Song Ziyuan, who had been lying in bed, was now standing in front of me, protecting me. I was overwhelmingly moved. Song Ziyuan's parents had both passed away, making him eligible for adoption. But my parents were not eligible since they already had their own children. With no other choice, Song Ziyuan's residency was temporarily registered under the name of one of my father's friends. That very day, my parents brought Song Ziyuan back to our villa. Since his leg injury had not yet healed, my father had a room on the second floor of the villa equipped just like a hospital room. He also hired a nurse for him. I registered an account online and hired someone to post short videos on the internet. The news of Xiaowan's parents poisoning a couple in their village quickly dominated the trending lists on major video websites. Millions of netizens online called for the death penalty. Justice was swift, and Xiaowan's parents were soon sentenced. However, 3 months later, Xiaowan was released early for good behavior. Unfortunately, by the time she came looking, our house was already empty. I had known all along that the juvenile detention center wouldn't hold Xiaowan forever. After her parents were sentenced to death, she dragged Song Ziyuan to act out a drama with me. We both were awakened by nightmares every night. The scenes in the dream were always the same. My parents sensed something was off, and with the rise of the live streaming industry in the South, my dad considered a career change. With a grand gesture, he moved the entire family to the South. Later, I heard that a young girl had been inquiring about our family. She had staked out for a while, and only after seeing that we had indeed moved did she stop coming. In the blink of an eye, 16 years had passed. I was now a sophomore in college. Song Ziyuan had returned from studying abroad and started the most popular home decor company among young people in the country. After discovering his talent in design, my parents had pulled some strings to send him to a top-tier foreign institution for further studies. He had made a name for himself in the industry even before finishing college. Many companies on Financial Street had offered him opportunities, but he firmly chose to return to his country to start his own business. When our house was being renovated, we incorporated many of his suggestions. My favorite spot, the southern platform, was his design, sitting under the eaves. Through the small loft directly in front, one could see the distant mountains, forming a picturesque scene. The wind chimes tinkled, the wooden door behind me was pulled open. The person who came draped a coat over me familiarly. "You don't need to guess to know you're here. It's getting cold, why didn't you put on a coat?" I turned around with a smile, meeting Song Ziyuan's gaze. 16 years had passed, and he had grown into the appearance of a male god from a previous life. But unlike in the past life, this time he had been raised too well by my parents, adding a bit of refinement to his demeanor. "Is your company not busy?" Song Ziyuan sat down beside me, speaking lightly. "Busy or not depends on the situation. Your birthday is coming up, isn't it? What do you want for your birthday this time?" This guy, asking about what gift to give in advance. Slightly annoyed, I said, "Just pick something, as long as it's not the same as what my boyfriend gave me." Hearing this, Song Ziyuan's expression instantly turned cold. He stared at me quietly. "Got a boyfriend? What does he do? How old is he?" "I'm not sure about his age, but he's icy, mushy, and very tasty." Seeing an opportunity to lighten the mood, I went to the fridge and took out a blue friend cute ice cream. Showing it to him, I said, "Here, this is my blue friend, want one?" Song Ziyuan was instantly torn between laughter and tears. In the dining room, I looked at the table full of disastrous dishes, tears streaming down my face. Last week, the cook who had been with my family for over a decade suddenly had to quit due to a family emergency. So, on my first day back from school, I was faced with various disastrous dishes prepared by my mom. Today's dish, covered in a mix of red and yellow on the noodles, it was my mom's specialty dish. The terribly made scrambled eggs with tomatoes. Under my mom's earnest gaze, I still took a bite, immediately. I was torn between "did you murder the salt cellar?" and "just kill me now." Glancing aside, my dad had already secretly spat his bite into a napkin he had prepared. Song Ziyuan was polite enough to swallow his, but his face said it all. Seeing our reaction, my mom, infuriated, went upstairs to video interview new cooks. The next day, she showed us several resumes of cooks who passed the interview. Among them, I instantly recognized Qiao Wan, not because Qiao Wan was particularly attractive, but because that face, I could never forget. My eyes landed on her name column, and I scoffed. She had changed her name, now called Xiao Fei. No wonder my mom didn't recognize her. Women change a lot by 18, and it had been 16 years. Qiao Wan's features had fully matured, making her almost unrecognizable from her childhood appearance. Plus, she had changed her name. No one would connect her with the Qiao Wan of the past. If I hadn't seen her in her previous life, I probably wouldn't have recognized her either. While I was lost in thought, my mom pulled Qiao Wan's resume from my hand. Out of all these, I favor this one the most. Both her educational and professional qualifications are the best. I frowned. Mom, hiring such a young and pretty nanny, have you not watched any movies? Do you want me to find some for you to catch up on? My mom glared at me annoyed. What kind of daughter talks about her father like that? Your dad and I have weathered many storms together. If he was going to stray, we wouldn't have made it this far. Aren't you afraid of thieves just because you haven't been robbed? Plus, there's my brother too. He's in the prime of his youth. Before I could finish, I saw Song Ziyuan, dressed in a suit, coming down the stairs. He looked at me with a deep gaze. Clearly, he had heard what I just said. I kept my eyes down, as quiet as a quail. Song Ziyuan walked over and nonchalantly took the resume from my mom. The resume is impressive. 22 years old with 5 years of work experience. Started working at 17. She's too young. Mom, if you hire her, I might have to move back to the company. After returning from abroad, Song Ziyuan had started his own business and was always extremely busy. Being able to come home twice a month was considered good. My mom, already harboring complaints, decisively ruled out Qiao Wan upon hearing this. I wasn't idle either. I made a call to the domestic agency to complain that Qiao Wan had a criminal record. That's when I found out she had bought a fake identity and lied to the company. Qiao Wan was fired that very day, but to my surprise, a week later, Qiao Wan still showed up at my house, as my grandmother's caretaker. Grandma had grown old and often talked about wanting to return to her roots, back to her hometown. My dad had built a villa for her in our hometown a couple of years ago. The caretaker was dispatched by a domestic agency from there. This time, she had come over for my birthday, and I had just returned from a dinner with friends. As I went to pour some water in the living room, I accidentally met eyes with Qiao Wan, who was wiping the dining table. I could see the panic and embarrassment in her eyes at that moment. Mrs. Back, let me take your bag. As Qiao Wan reached out to take my bag, I avoided her. She looked up in surprise, meeting my scrutinizing gaze. I hinted pointedly, we don't have that habit here. It's not like some people who don't have the life of a lady but certainly have the airs, becoming helpless the moment they get home. Right, Grandma. I turned to look at my grandmother sitting on the sofa. Grandma was hard of hearing due to her age and didn't catch what I had said. She just beckoned me over. Nan. Oh, my dear granddaughter. Grandma can only see you so rarely. I've missed you terribly. I deliberately ignored her, gesturing meaningfully towards where Qiao Wan was. So, Grandma missed me so much that you found a girl about my age to keep you company. I might get jealous. On the reflective marble floor, I saw Qiao Wan glaring fiercely at me, and I smirked back at her. But my grandmother, oblivious, continued explaining. It turned out that Grandma had gone to the mall to buy me a birthday gift and had accidentally fallen, and it was Qiao Wan who had promptly taken her to the hospital. Grandma wanted to repay her. She refused to accept anything. Her kindness immediately touched my grandmother. Then Qiao Wan took the opportunity to share her pitiable story of being dismissed and left homeless. So, my grandmother hired her as a nanny. I had calculated everything, but I had overlooked my grandmother. In my previous life, my grandmother lived in the countryside and seldom came to our house, and she had only seen Qiao Wan a few times. However, previously, because Qiao Wan cried about her clothes being old and tattered, and how she was ridiculed at school, she wanted my mom to take her shopping for new clothes. During the shopping trip, there was an accident. A motorcycle with failed brakes sped uncontrollably towards them. My mom was hit while trying to protect Xiao Wan and suffered a miscarriage. The child was already well formed at 5 months. It was the grandson my grandmother had longed for. From then on, my grandmother detested Xiao Wan, always looked at her coldly, and almost considered putting her up for adoption. It was an accidental fall down the stairs followed by a heart attack that led to my grandmother's death. We all thought it was an accident. Only after I died did I learn that it was Xiao Wan who had pushed her. She also intentionally hid my grandmother's medicine. Even my mom's miscarriage was her doing. She feared that if my parents had a second child, they would send her away, so she paid a thug from a nearby village to cut the brake lines and hit my mom. That motorcycle was indeed aimed at my mom. My mom is straightforward and has always been overly protected by my dad, so much so that when she returned home after getting her nails done, she didn't even notice there was an extra nanny. It wasn't until dinner when I asked Xiao Wan to serve me soup. As she was ladling the last spoonful, I accidentally stepped on her toe. She cried out in pain, and the bowl shook from her grasp, spilling hot soup onto the back of her hand. She let go in pain. The entire bowl of soup overturned on the table. The noise was so loud that instantly everyone's eyes turned to Xiao Wan. My parents frowned. Xiao Wan stood to the side, covering her hand, her eyes brimming with tears. Yet she dared not let them fall. I spoke up, "Sorry. I accidentally stepped on you just now. Are you okay?" Though I asked if she was okay, it was clear she was not. Although she covered her hand, you could see it was badly scalded, reddened, and even blistering. I had also pressed hard on her toe when stepping on it. It must have been quite a sight. Tears fell from Xiao Wan's eyes as she sobbed silently, unable to speak, just shaking her head. My mom scolded me perfunctorily. Grandma didn't have the heart to scold me and just took out 2 tubes of ointment from her bag for her. That evening, my dad went to Grandma's room. I secretly followed. They were indeed discussing Xiao Wan. "Mom, this nanny is too young and inexperienced. She can't even carry a bowl of soup properly. Let's dismiss her tomorrow. If you want to thank her, just pay her more money." My dad is a man who can't stand flaws, whether in work or life. If Xiao Wan had been working in our house, she might have been dismissed right then, but I don't know what kind of spell Xiao Wan had cast on Grandma. My grandmother slapped the table in response. "Listen to what you're saying. She saved me. How could I not pay her?" It was Xiaofei who adamantly refused to accept money, saying that accepting money would change the nature of her good deeds. I heard she was dismissed, and I thought I could help her a bit by offering her a job, and even then, she wouldn't let me pay her a high salary. "You guys are busy with work and can't keep me company, and you refuse to give me a grandson, insisting on going against me by adopting that jinx who brings disaster to her parents. At least Xiaofei can stay by my side every day and cheer me up. Can you?" Amidst Grandma's relentless questioning, my father had nothing more to say. I stood outside the door, feeling the whole situation was absurd. This time, Xiao Wan had simply changed her identity, yet Grandma defended her so vehemently. Such a thing would never have happened in my previous life. It seems I need to come up with a new strategy. Back in my bedroom, there was an uninvited guest. Xiao Wan sat boldly on my bed, casually surveying my room with her gaze. "You recognize me, don't you, Shen Man?" Hatred coiled around my neck like a venomous snake. I stared at Xiao Wan, silent. Xiao Wan hated me just as much. She slowly stood up and faced me. "Did you think moving houses would get rid of me? Dream on. Your entire family met a tragic end at my hands in our past lives, and this time, none of you will escape." She really knew how to provoke me. Hatred and rage nearly consumed me. With all my strength, I slapped her across the face. "How dare you?" Xiao Wan took a moment to recover, then lifted her eyes, red and filled with intense hatred, to meet mine. "Why shouldn't I dare? If it weren't for you, I would have been the one your parents adopted. And I wouldn't have dropped out of middle school or been tricked by my aunt into trading myself for a dowry. That man was a beast. I bore his children, yet he never treated me as a human being, even demanding that I serve him and his mistresses in bed." Her eyes reddened further, a crazed satisfaction evident in her expression. "I killed them. But I know too well what life is like for a child with no father and a murderer for a mother, so I poisoned my 2 children and escaped." I wasn't surprised that Xiao Wan could do such a thing. She was always a cold-blooded and ruthless person. I scoffed sarcastically. "Xiao Wan, don't make yourself out to be a martyr. Did you kill your own children because you feared they would be helpless in this world, or because you worried they would stain your life?" I knew her better than she knew herself. Having been by her side for 3 years after my death in our previous lives, angered by my words, Xiao Wan glared fiercely at me. "Shen Man, all of this should have been mine. If it weren't for me, you would have been kidnapped by traffickers long ago, never to be found again. You repay kindness with ingratitude, and you will suffer for it." Her last words were spoken through gritted teeth. After Qiao Wan left, the tension in my body suddenly released, and I collapsed to the floor. Painful memories from my past life overwhelmed me. As I lay there in agony, a shadow fell over me. I looked up with tearful eyes, meeting the gaze of Song Ziyuan. Song Ziyuan, in his crisp suit, looked dignified and elegant, as if he had just come from an event. He didn't ask any questions, just quietly stayed by my side. I wanted to say something to him, but I didn't know where to start. Eventually, I opened my mouth to speak but stopped myself in time. The experiences from my past life were too bitter and painful. I didn't want to burden him with them. In the end, I cried until I fell asleep on his shoulder. The next morning, I woke up to hear a significant incident had occurred at home. Qiao Wan, under the guise of bringing coffee, had gone to Song Ziyuan's room. After his shower, Song Ziyuan found her stripped and lying on his bed, which made him leave the house with a dark expression. Before leaving, he instructed the housekeeper to strip his room and redecorate. Upon learning this, my mother was so angry she had someone throw all of Qiao Wan's belongings out. Although Song Ziyuan was not my biological brother, my parents had long treated him as their own son, investing in him emotionally no less than they did in me. Outside, the rain poured heavily. Qiao Wan stood in the rain, crying and refusing to leave. Eventually, my mother had the security forcefully remove her. After returning from a spa day, grandmother and her old friends heard about the incident and directly accused my mother. "What sins did I commit in my past life to have you as a daughter-in-law? Are you trying to kill me with anger?" Back then, I advised against adopting that disaster, but you insisted. I urged you to have a second and third child, offering 5 million for each child, but you still refused. I now live separately from you all. I even hired a nanny, but you drove her away. Is that bed in the gloomy room inlaid with gold? What difference does lying on it make? If you hadn't adopted him back then, where would he be today? Grandma's voice was loud, and her words became harsher and harsher. But Grandma didn't realize that Song Ziyuan is now the apple of my mother's eye. She could criticize my mom, and my mom might let it go, but she couldn't insult Song Ziyuan. For the first time in her life, my mom had a huge argument with Grandma. My dad and I both sided with my mom. Angered, Grandma moved to a hotel that very day. The next day was my birthday banquet. Right up until the banquet was about to start, Grandma didn't show up. I thought Grandma was genuinely angry with me. But then, I learned she had an accident. The birthday celebration was abruptly cancelled. Our whole family rushed to the hospital. We found out that Grandma had been poisoned. She had ingested a large amount of a very potent rat poison. Her organs were failing rapidly due to the toxin. There was no turning back. Even with the best medical equipment, she had, at most, half an hour left. When I saw Grandma again, her hair was white and she looked frail and much older, lying weakly in the hospital bed, tears streaming down her face. She gripped my hand, tightening her hold repeatedly. I couldn't hold back anymore and started to cry. "Grandma, man, don't cry. Everyone has their day. It's all my fault, all my fault." Grandpa passed away early, and Grandma raised my dad alone. She had been strong all her life, and this was the first time I saw her cry. She settled her affairs with my dad and apologized to my mom. Finally, her gaze fell on Song Ziyuan. She motioned for Song Ziyuan to come closer and took his hand, her aged face covered in tears. "Good child. Actually, you did nothing wrong. Your parents' death wasn't your fault. Being adopted wasn't your fault. I spoke to you like that. Yet you came to the hotel to warn me about Xiao Fei. You are truly a grandson sent from heaven to the Shin family. I am sorry. I am so sorry." Grandma cried in pain and regret, tears falling drop by drop. Choking up, Song Ziyuan said, "There's no need to apologize. In my heart, you are my grandma." Those words made Grandma tear up again. Until the last moment of her life, she struggled to take my hand. She placed my hand into Song Ziyuan's. She opened her mouth but made no sound. All the machines beeped once, turning into a straight line. My parents were inconsolable, and in her final moments, the words that Grandma and Song Ziyuan both saw, she said, "Take good care of Nan Nan." Before Grandma's funeral, the police investigated the circumstances of the poisoning. After moving to the hotel, Grandma had made a phone call to Qiao Wan. It's unknown what was discussed. Qiao Wan then moved into Grandma's suite with her luggage on the same day, before my birthday banquet. Song Ziyuan went to the hotel to pick up Grandma. After seeing Qiao Wan, he warned Grandma to be cautious of her. Unfortunately, Qiao Wan overheard this. Qiao Wan put a large dose of rat poison in Song Ziyuan's coffee cup. Luckily, Song Ziyuan got a phone call just as he was about to drink it. After the call, seeing that Grandma was still upset and not wanting to be late for my birthday party. He hurriedly said goodbye and left. Distracted, Grandma drank the wrong coffee. After seeing Grandma collapse, Xiao Wan's first reaction wasn't to call an ambulance, but to run away. Finally, my parents and Song Ziyuan realized that Xiao Fei was Xiao Wan. Xiao Wan had been using a false identity. The trail soon went cold. The police immediately sealed off all transport exits, but even after 5 days of thorough investigation, Xiao Wan disappeared without a trace, as if she had vanished into thin air. Until this night, I was awakened from a deep sleep by thick smoke. The villa was ablaze with fire. I snapped awake from my sleep. I grabbed a towel, soaked it in water in the bathroom, and covered my nose and mouth as I opened the door to leave. But at the bedroom door, I saw Xiao Wan, torch in hand, looking like a madwoman. "Where do you think you're going, Shin Man?" Behind her, the fire roared fiercely, filling the air with dense smoke, and yet, there was a smile on her lips, like a lunatic. I finally realized, "Have you been hiding in our house all this time?" Shin Man, not too stupid, but it's a pity. In our past life, I tricked you into entering a burning building where you died. This time, you're going to burn to death again. Shin Man, no matter how smart you are, you can't change your own fate. After saying that, she threw the torch right in front of me. The flames burst into life with a loud bang. I was so frightened that I fell to the ground. Seeing me in such a sorry state, Xiao Wan suddenly started laughing. "Shin Man, my life might be over, but dragging you down with me doesn't seem too bad." When the flames between us grew taller than a person, I, who had been in a pitiful state, suddenly smiled and slowly stood up from the ground. "Xiao Wan, aren't you curious? My parents and Song Ziyuan are all at home. And with such a big fire in the house, why aren't they coming to find me?" The smile on Xiao Wan's face suddenly froze. She then realized that besides me, there was no one else in the house. Even the servants had vanished without a trace. "Xiao Wan, we shall never meet again. After you die, I will spend a lot of money to hire monks and Taoist priests to liberate you, ensuring you will never rest in peace." After that, I pulled open the door of a nearby wardrobe and stepped inside. Behind me, Xiao Wan's screams tore through the air. "Shin Man, you will not die a good death. I won't let you get away with this." I couldn't hear the rest of her words, because I had already left the villa with my family, who were hidden in the secret room. Only after the villa was reduced to ashes did we call the police. When building this villa, at my suggestion, a secret room was constructed on the lowest level. This room was made of special materials, fireproof and waterproof. Every closet in the villa had a hidden passage leading directly to this secret room. This passage was one-way and equipped with the highest level of facial recognition technology available on the market, ensuring identification under any circumstances. When the police were unable to catch Xiao Wan, I guessed that she must not have left. She must have been hiding somewhere close yet undetectable to us. I discussed countermeasures with my parents and Song Ziyuan immediately. I could have run away at the first sign of danger, but I was worried that Xiao Wan, realizing the house was empty, would escape from the fire, so I waited until the fire had spread to a point where she had no chance of escape. I wanted her dead. Only with her death could I have peace of mind. Throughout my life, I have always contemplated ways to kill Xiao Wan, to kill without leaving any evidence of the crime, but I also left her a way out. If she had been content with her situation and stopped bothering our family, I wouldn't have gone out of my way to kill her. After all, this life was obtained at the cost of my entire family dying once. She wasn't worth sacrificing the hard-earned life I now had. Unfortunately, she failed to see that. After she reappeared, I kept provoking her with small actions, inadvertently showing my fear of fire. She must have thought it was a residual phobia from being burned to death in a past life. That's why she wanted to burn me alive again, but even then, it wasn't guaranteed that Xiao Wan would become desperate enough to set the villa on fire, unless she was driven into a corner. Actually, I knew more about how Xiao Wan had been living these years than anyone else. Her dropping out was my doing. I also bribed her aunt to make her marry the family she married into. I had picked from nearly 100 villages for her. This family was notoriously twisted. Their previous daughter-in-law was driven to suicide by her cruel mother-in-law and 4 sisters-in-law. Her husband, spoiled since childhood, was otherwise decent, but that decency depended on there being no temptations. After she gave birth to a son, I sent 2 nightclub hostesses to her husband's workplace. I kept pushing her moral boundaries, until she became a desperate fugitive. Finally, everything has settled. From the 30th floor open-air restaurant, the river views of the city were all in sight. Song Ziyuan had made up for my missed birthday. After I made a wish, he handed me a gift. "What did you wish for?" I smiled. deciding to be straightforward. I hoped that Song Ziyuan and I would like each other and be together forever. Song Ziyuan's expression changed drastically, and it was too late to cover my mouth. He was incredibly frustrated. Now that you've said your wish out loud, it won't come true. I'll go buy another cake. And you can make a new wish. He said this as he hurriedly got up. I grabbed him quickly. Silly, I was just kidding. That wasn't my real wish. Come closer. I'll whisper it to you. Song Ziyuan was skeptical but still leaned in close. I planted a kiss right on his cheek. His cheeks, along with the tips of his ears, instantly flushed red. I spoke softly. I wasn't lying just now. Song Ziyuan, I've liked you since we were little. My parents know that I like you too. What about you? Do you like me? Song Ziyuan met my gaze with his beautiful eyes. Under my intense gaze, he wrapped his hand around the back of my head and pressed his lips to mine. He covered my eyes with his palm, kissing me tenderly and earnestly. I couldn't help but smile. It turns out, even if one's eyes are covered, the essence of love still overflows from the heart.